Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you for being here and welcome today to this meeting of the Nevada Youth Legislature. Before we get started, I would like to share a deep gratitude and appreciation for the Legislative Council Bureau for creating the BDR list for this term of the Youth Legislature. Thank you for taking your time to put the high consideration and effort for the youth community and for the work that we do here for the Youth Legislature. Now, I would like to proceed right on to business as we do have an exceptionally busy and exciting day ahead of us. I'd now like to ask the Secretary to please call the roll.
Youth Legislator Allen.
Present.
Youth Legislator Alvarez Flores.
Present.
Youth Legislator Breeden.
Present.
Youth Legislator Kane.
Present.
Youth Legislator Chang.
Present.
Youth Legislator Chen.
Present.
Youth Legislator Chong.
Present.
Vice Chair Cohen.
He's not here yet.
Youth Legislator Conyers. Youth Legislator
Absent.
Coughlin.
Present.
Youth Legislator McCarthy. Youth Legislator Nguyen.
Present.
Youth Legislator Opsgarden.
Present.
Youth Legislator Park.
Present.
Youth Legislator Perry. Youth Legislator Raganti.
Present.
Youth Legislator Rosas.
Present.
Youth Legislator Villatoro.
Present.
Youth Legislator Walsh.
Present.
Youth Legislator Wolf.
Present. Present.
Chair Rios.
Present. Thank you, Ms. Jimenez, for calling the roll. At this time, if anyone would like to provide public comment, please remember to identify yourself for the record to ensure everyone has an opportunity to speak. I would like to ask anyone speaking during public comment to keep their comments to no more than 2 minutes. Also, please avoid repeating comments that have been made by a previous speaker. There will be another period for public comment at the end of this meeting. So would anyone like to provide public comment in the South? Appears we have no one. Would anyone like to provide public comment in the North? All right. It appears we do not have anyone who is prepared to provide public comment at this time, so we will move on to the next portion of this meeting. Our primary focus for today's meeting is to begin the selection process for the bill draft request, which we refer to as BDR, that we will present to the Nevada State Legislature during the 2025 legislative session. I want to thank all youth legislators for the time and attention you have devoted to preparing your BDR proposals, and I think we're all excited to hear what everyone will be proposing. As a housekeeping reminder, please remember to unmute your microphone and identify yourself for the record when speaking. Mute yourself when you are done speaking. I would also like to ask everyone to please turn off your cell phones or other electronic devices, and to please note that the meeting is being recorded and uploaded to the legislature's website. Keep this in mind as you deliver your testimony and ask questions of the presenters. We will now move on to agenda item 4. Our last meeting was held on April 11th, 2024. Copies of the minutes of that meeting have been provided to you. I will now accept a motion to approve the minutes. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I motion to approve the minutes from our meeting on April 11th, 2024.
Youth Legislator Allen has moved to approve the minutes of our last meeting held on April 11th, 2024. Is there a second to the motion?
I second the
Seconded.
motion.
Youth Legislator Nguyen has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion regarding the minutes? Does not sound like it. I'll now take a vote on the motion. All those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes, please signify by saying yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please signify by saying no. The motion carries unanimously and the minutes are approved. We'll now move on to agenda item 5, which is the selection of the 7 BDR proposals. At this time, I would like to ask each youth legislator, when called sequentially by BDR number, to move to the witness table to present a brief explanation of your BDR proposal. You will have 3 minutes to ask questions about the BDR proposal. Following the presentation and Q&A portion, the youth legislator will return to their seat. A list of the BDR proposals was emailed to each of you. While you are listening to each proposal, please consider which ones you would like to move forward for consideration during our next meeting on October 22nd, 2024. When it comes time to vote, each of you will have 3 votes. So please think about which BDR proposals are your top 3 choices. Additionally, each of you has the option to co-sponsor 1 BDR proposal. Please think about which BDR proposal, if any, you would like to co-sponsor. Let's get started with BDR number 1. Youth Legislator Breeden, would you please provide a brief explanation of your BDR proposal?
Of course, for the record, my name is Youth Legislator Breeden and I represent District 4. Today, I am here to talk to you about an issue affecting all students across the state. An issue that can impact both their health and their safety on campus. The accessibility of bathrooms in schools and how we address drug use amongst students. Across schools in our states, bathrooms are frequently closed throughout the day as a method of combating drug use. I understand the reasoning behind this policy. No one wants drugs circulating in schools, and administrators are trying to do their best with a large problem. But in the process, we are unintentionally harming the broader student body. We are punishing all students for the actions of a few. Let me ask one simple question. What happens when a student can't find an open restroom? They're left with few options, all of which are disruptive. Students may have to walk to another wing of the school, wait until lunch, or worse, hold it during long class periods. This not only impacts their ability to concentrate during class and becomes a disruptive problem, but it also poses a health risk. No student should have to worry about finding an open restroom during the school day. Thus, we need to rethink how we're addressing the problem of drug use. Closing bathrooms isn't a solution, and it's only masking the issue while creating new problems for the student body at large. So, here's the key point. Students who are determined to use drugs will find a way to do so even in closed bathrooms. So, that's why we're proposing legislation today that will protect students' access to essential facilities while addressing the core issue of drug use more effectively. First, this legislation will ensure that a sufficient number of bathrooms are open during the school day. These bathrooms will be proportionate to the size of the student body, guaranteeing that no student is deprived of access of basic facilities. If we set a standard ratio in line with the health district's recommendations, say 1 bathroom for every 300 students, we can avoid broad closures that inconvenience everyone. Exceptions would only be made in cases of emergency or necessary repairs, and schools would need to document those exceptions clearly. This creates accountability and fairness in how we handle bathroom access. But access alone isn't enough. The second part of this bill focuses on real prevention, empowering those already on the front lines. In this case, I'm talking about campus security monitors. Their current job description amongst many school districts across the state includes observing and monitoring student behavior, but they lack specialized training when it comes to recognizing and addressing drug use. This legislation would change that. With this bill, campus security monitors will receive comprehensive drug use prevention training. This will include skills such as identifying the signs of drug use, de-escalating situations that involve drugs, and monitoring spaces like bathrooms without needing to close them. Armed with these skills, they will be able to intervene more effectively and reduce the need for drastic measures like all-out bathroom closures. By taking this two-pronged approach, ensuring that bathrooms remain open and giving campus security monitors the tools to prevent drug use, we are making schools safer for everyone, not just a select few. We are recognizing the basic needs of students while addressing the very real concerns of drugs on campus. In closing, I urge you to support this legislation. By keeping bathrooms open and ensuring staff are equipped to handle drug-related issues, we can foster a safer, healthier, and more supportive environment for all students. Thank you.
Thank you, Youth Legislator Breeden. We'll now move on to the question period. Do any youth legislators have any questions for Youth Legislator Breeden? Youth Legislator Allen?
Yes. So, looking briefly at what was sent to us by legal and kind of in the description, and then based off your presentation, there's just kind of a gray area I have. What does the enforcement of this bill look like, and what means would be suggested in promoting the enforcement of both parts of your bill?
So we address that when we're looking for specific documentation on when bathrooms have to be closed outside of the standard ratio set forth by this legislation. So if a bathroom needs to be closed, that will no longer allow the ratio of 1 to every 300 students to exist, then specific documentation needs to be submitted. And if not, there should be a forum in which students can complain about this violation, so schools are held accountable to student safety.
Thank you, Legislator Breeden. Do any other youth legislators have any questions?
I have a question.
Youth Legislator Chen.
Oh.
Youth Legislator Chen, and then who was that? And then Youth Legislator Walsh will be our last question.
Youth Legislator Chen for the record. I was just wondering what you think about CSMs already having a lot on their plate because they kind of do it all over campus. So do you think having this drug regulation and prevention training will kind of add to their plate in a way that's ineffective, or do you think it will be integral to their job description?
I have two answers for that. First, research shows that when we look for drug prevention options, we de-escalate situations outside of drug use, making campus security monitors' jobs easier because they're less likely to deal with a fight at lunch if they're de-escalating situations from the beginning, which is drugs, which often leads to those high stress situations. Secondly, we're not looking to make campus security monitors' jobs harder, but instead give them skills that will let them actually monitor the student body. And currently, the student body's largest issue is drug use. And in order to monitor this effectively, they need to have all the skills in order to do so.
Thank you, Legislator Breeden. Youth Legislator Walsh. And then just as a quick note, I don't think we can see the Zoom screen at any point. So if you ever do want to ask a question, please just go ahead and jump on the mic so we can hear that. Like you did exactly right. But you can go ahead with your question.
Yes, my question was already sort of answered for a second, but I was wondering if you had specifics on what that training would look like for campus security monitors. And I know it wasn't mentioned prior to that, but campus security monitors in the state of Nevada only make about $15 to $20 per hour, which is close to a minimum wage job. So I understand what you're saying about not making harder, but I'm just wondering how this won't add more on their plate, considering that there can be fights on school and other things like that. So I'm just wondering what the training specifically looks like and why you think this should go specifically to campus security monitors and not other personnel on campus.
Firstly, to answer your question, we already pay for professional training for campus security monitors, and the schools that I talked to, being Canyon Springs, Liberty High School, Coronado, and Reno High School, I had learned that overall we found that there were 3 to 4 days specifically dedicated throughout the year just for campus security monitor training. Thus, the training days are already there. We just need to reevaluate how we're actually using those days and how effective they are.
That's 3 minutes.
You want me to finish my answer or no?
I think you're good.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we have BDR proposal number 2 submitted by Youth Legislator Obstgarden. You can begin when you're ready.
All right. So, over the last decade, the public education system in Nevada has rapidly gone from below average to dismal. Student performance in reading has been particularly poor, as only 41% of students in the state were labeled as proficient, meaning that they can read and comprehend at grade level. This has been noticeably worse among third graders, as only 34% of them fell into this proficient category. This indicates that the Read by 3 outline for early public education, which was signed into effect in 2015 by then Governor Sandoval, is blatantly failing Nevada's school children. And something clearly must be done so that children can learn to process what they are reading, thereby setting them up for longer-term educational success. And to achieve this goal, I'm proposing that we require the instruction of phonics in kindergarten and first grade classrooms, and with that, the training of teachers on how to properly implement this in classrooms. The implementation of phonics instruction has long been a topic of controversy among educators, but new studies show that phonics is the most effective method for teaching children how to read and how to retain that knowledge. 4 states in particular, Colorado, Missouri, Texas, and Wyoming, started requiring phonics instruction in 2019, and those 4 states have all reported no significant change in third graders' reading performance since then, despite the national average declining nearly 7% in that same time span. In fact, of the 22 states that reported no significant change, 21 of them had some form of phonics-based instruction required in their kindergarten and first grade classrooms. And this decline in the national average, along with the COVID-19 pandemic, has at least partially been proven to have been a direct result of an increased number of non-English speakers in American classrooms. In Nevada's elementary schools, for instance, roughly 12.8% of kindergartners were learning the English language at school in 2021. 3 years later, only 11.2% of those now third graders were deemed to be proficient in the English language, showing results roughly 25% worse than their English-speaking peers. This shows, yet again, how the current science of reading laws are failing to accomplish their intended goal. Phonics, on the other hand, has been scientifically proven to help students learn to read faster, including students who don't already know English. In fact, learning to connect written text to sounds helps English language learners more than any other method. This is especially true for students whose native language is one such as Mandarin or Japanese that uses characters instead of the letters that we use in the English alphabet. With the number of foreign immigrants in Nevada trending sharply upward, having a more effective method to speed up language acquisition in ELL students is quickly becoming an even more pressing need. And in addition to the overwhelming evidence showing why phonics instruction must be required in our schools, phonics will also be quite simple to implement in the current curriculum. This bill will create a detailed curriculum structure on which teachers will receive state-sponsored training every other year. While this may sound like an expensive venture, it will only cost the government $9.27 per student to train teachers and provide them with adequate materials, according to statistics supplied by the State Department of Education. If I can improve my education for less than the cost of 2 Starbucks lattes, I wouldn't hesitate to take the opportunity, and I have no doubt that you all would do the same. In fact, such a low per student cost should cause no significant change to the state's budget for education. All of this goes to show just how helpful requiring phonics instruction would be for the youth of Nevada. This is a cost-effective, simple, and proven-to-work method that, if signed into law, will bring greatly increased levels of achievement to large numbers of children for generations to come.
Thank you, Youth Legislator Opsgarten. Do any youth legislators have questions for Youth Legislator Opsgarten? All right, and then I can't see the north. Youth Legislator Breeden.
How will this impact students going into middle and high school, where oftentimes they tend to decline again and graduate with less than 8th grade levels of reading?
So that is a very valid point, and while this bill is aimed at kindergarten and first grade classrooms, so its goal will not be to provide immediate improvement to the education system, but rather to start improving the education system from when it is signed into law, so that from the time of kindergarten to first grade in the decade or so later, there will be noticeable improvements from the point we're at right now when phonics instruction would be starting to be required.
Thank you. Do any of the youth legislators that have questions? Youth Legislator Allen?
Yes, real quick, just for the record, I myself had a question, and then my colleague, Youth Legislator Chong, had a question to follow. So my question, have we seen in Nevada classrooms in kindergarten and first grade levels a lack of phonics teachings? And can you further quantify the number, or I guess the lack or the severity of the lack of phonics being instructed?
So there are two parts to that question, so I'll go one at a time. So the first part was essentially just the severity of the problem and why it's so. I talked about the science of reading laws quite a bit, and those laws currently require no form of phonics instruction, and in fact, phonics isn't even mentioned in the bill. There is mention of phonemics, which is an entirely different subject from phonics. Phonemics is just working on sounds and talking as opposed to reading what is on a page. And then in terms of the statistics, I'll say them again. There were 22 states that reported no significant change, and 21 of those were required phonics-based instruction. And there are only 23 states in the nation that require phonics-based instruction. So statistically, it shows how efficient phonics are as an instructive method.
Thank you. And then Youth Legislator Chong, correct?
Yes, this is Youth Legislator Chong, Senate District 13 for the record. So I would like to ask you, how would such a phonics curriculum be developed by the state, and when would these standards be implemented?
So I had said while presenting that there would be an outline for a curriculum within the bill itself, which would then be taught to teachers, and the curriculum would start being implemented ideally as soon as such a bill would theoretically be passed into law for the upcoming school year. But if not, then as soon as possible, as soon as would be possible for the Department of Education to implement it. So if it was passed in the 2025 legislative session, ideally the 2025-26 school year, but absolute worst case scenario, the school year after that.
Thank you. And then Youth Legislator McCarthy.
I just want to clarify on the financial aspect real quick. You said $9.37 per student. Is that correct? 27, sorry. So does that mean that would be multiplied by every single student in the state of Nevada? So if that's for each student?
So it wouldn't be for every single student.
It's just first and second grade.
Just for the kindergarten and first grade students. So I just toned it down to per student levels just for the sake of the presentation. I have the numbers with me right now. Overall, it would cost the state about $550,000 for as a one-time expense for.
And that's time.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Youth Legislator Opsgarden. We'll now move on to Youth Legislator McCarthy. Go ahead and start when you're ready.
Before I begin, I just want to clarify that my bill does not involve alcohol use. It is only drug use and tobacco. I am not currently at this time trying to involve alcohol use in it. It was accidentally mentioned there in legal. I don't know why I did not put it in my original BDR. Okay. Hello, fellow constituents. In a 2019 report made by SAMHSA, a division of the Health and Human Services, it was found that 4.7% of Nevada teenagers aged 12 to 17 met the criteria for illicit drug use disorder. That 4.7 equates to about 10,000 adolescents. While that was 5 years ago, news reports and statements made by the Clark County Police Department and Clark County Coroner's Office indicate that that percentage has been increasing in past years. This means that my bill would hopefully impact, at minimum, 10,000 of the youth in our state. My bill proposes the implementation of mandatory reporting by all school teachers of suspected drug use in their students. With my bill in place, any teacher or other staff member who observes or witnesses a pupil with behavior consistent with drug use must report to an administrator at their school as soon as possible. Mandatory reporting is nothing new, as Nevada law already mandates reporting for suspected child abuse, suspected bullying or cyberbullying, and suspected suicide risk. For all of these types of reporting, procedures are set in place on notifying invested parties, such as parents or law enforcement, depending on the type of report. Adding suspected drug use to that list would help safeguard more students who are putting themselves in vulnerable positions by consuming illicit substances. Specifically, my bill would intend to notify the parents of students who are exhibiting behaviors consistent with drug use or found to be explicitly using drugs on school property. After a report is made by a teacher, school administrators would notify the parent or guardian of the people involved and conduct a parent-teacher conference. Resources would be given to the parent or guardian and help them address the drug use. Follow-up with the pupil would be conducted to ensure that they are receiving the assistance they need. During the conferences, school administrators will take necessary steps to make a preliminary determination on if parents or guardians are fit to address the student's drug use. If the parents are found to be unable to do this, then and only then will the school contact law enforcement to perform a house call and possibly involve social services. Administrators will also create a written report of the original incidents and all steps taken to address the incident. One concern that has already been expressed to me is the possibility of mistaken reporting. I want to make clear that the reports will not be used to incriminate the students in any way, whether the conference confirms or refutes the suspected drug use. Therefore, if a teacher were to misread signs, possibly due to a student having a medical or mental health condition, it would not harm the student's reputation or record. If the student was determined not to be using, they would easily be able to move on from the incident. Another consideration is fiscal impact. Because of the presently in place procedures for existing mandatory reporting, little would have to be done to implement my bill into school systems in Nevada. However, teachers would need to receive training to learn how to identify students who are using drugs. This training would probably cost the state money, but existing training has been made by nonprofit organizations such as LEAD. Support from one or more nonprofit organizations could eliminate the cost of training. The bill would also implement training on racial neutrality to ensure that racial profiling would not lead to mistaken reporting. By implementing this bill, adults in the lives of Nevada youth will be able to take the necessary steps to get children to stop using and set them up for long-term success. Over time, if this measure is established, it will curb the number of accidental overdoses among adolescents in our state. Constituents, I would greatly appreciate your support because I believe in the potential of this bill. I believe that we can save lives and stop the rising trend of drug use in our state. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any legislators have questions for Youth Legislator McCarthy? Youth Legislator Park?
Youth Legislator Park, representing Senate District 19 for the record. So I understand the point you're trying to make with requiring mandated reports for teachers, but especially because drug use and the patterns of drug use is not a very set in stone pattern, and a lot of different kids go through different types of patterns. How do we ensure that these reports are actually reliable to a certain extent, where they're not overusing reports or they're not being used enough? And how do we ensure that specific minorities aren't targeted with some of these reports, and with some minorities being overly targeted for patterns when they necessarily aren't following the specific pattern? So how would we address those concerns?
For the first part of the question, there will be a parent-teacher conference, which is in place with any type of mandatory reporting. So if it is, suspected bullying or cyberbullying, there is a parent-teacher conference, and teachers and students can be present. So there would be meeting, and the student would obviously have the chance to explain the situation from their point of view, specifically if they have, possibly been struggling with a mental health condition, which can, have similarities to drug use symptoms, skipping class, unfocused, talking about risky behaviors. And if they're found not to be using, there will be no penalty for them. And hopefully, because they're exhibiting whatever those behaviors were, they can get the help they need for whatever was causing those behaviors. For minorities, I mentioned there would be training on racial neutrality to ensure that racial profiling would not lead to mistaken reporting. There is already training on racial neutrality for teachers in all incidents, specifically incidents that are reported to schools, to make sure that a student who is, all sides of the story are considered fairly because of their, no matter their race. So I would hope that that would be enough. But again, historically, it isn't always. So it is a valid concern. I would just hope in the integrity of the teachers and the ability of administrators to figure out the situation fairly.
Thank you. Youth Legislator Kane. We'll go ahead to Youth Legislator Kane, and then Alvarez Flores had his hand up. And if we have time, Youth Legislator Walsh.
I just had a question. Is it shown that teachers aren't currently reporting?
There is not much statistical data. I mostly have anecdotal because I have been reaching out to many teachers. Both of my bosses at my job work at different schools and obviously my own school. And many have expressed concern of their administration doesn't really know what to do or what to tell them. There is no policy. I have heard stories of teachers at schools taking away vapes in class and treating them like phones and giving them back at the end of class because they go to their admin and their admin does not have a policy to follow. I believe that there needs to be a policy so that parents are notified because I do not think all parents know when it's going on, and I think it's necessary that there is someone looking out for the child.
Thank you. And then if Youth Legislator Chang, I believe, had a question, correct?
Yes, this is Youth Legislator Chang for Senate District 14 for the record. So you mentioned several times that there would be tests or some sort of method in order to ensure that there is no false reporting. So I was wondering precisely how false positives would be eliminated.
If you have a very short answer, I'll allow you to go on, but your timer has gone off.
Like I said, the parent-teacher conference would allow, and the student would be included in the conference to explain the situation. And if they are not, using drugs, obviously they can advocate for themselves and hopefully explain what caused the situation. If it must come to that and they really, really feel the need, like they are not believed, drug testing is hopefully technically an option to eliminate it. But teachers are very sparing in using mandatory reporting. I've heard from multiple teachers at my school that they have only used mandatory reporting less than 5 times in their entire career. They are very careful when they use it.
All right, thank you. Youth Legislator Wolf, BDR proposal number 4 is next.
Yeah.
You can start when you're ready.
Youth Legislator Wolf for the record. Good afternoon, fellow constituents. As we see more advanced technology in our age, the risk of online crimes against our Nevada youth are at higher risk. My bill will implement online crimes against children in Nevada's education curriculum, targeting in the 9th grade across public, charter, and private schools. This curriculum will make sure that all Nevada youth are able to prevent, identify, deflect, and report online crimes against children. This curriculum is essential to decrease the number of sextortion and cyberbullying crimes in the state of Nevada. Right now, I do not have numbers in the state of Nevada. Sorry. The average Nevada youth spends about 8 hours and 32 minutes online. That is a lot of risk that the Nevada youth have online from other people that they may not know and other people from different countries trying to gain money and extort them for their money. My bill will make sure that they're able to identify, prevent, report this type of crime to make sure that the Nevada youth are not being extorted for money. Also, when this happens, the Nevada youth feel that some Nevada youth feel shame and fear because they do not want to tell anybody, which ultimately leads to mental health like depression, anxiety, and sometimes suicide. My bill will make sure that we could get the Nevada youth help so that it does not come to this circumstance where we lose the Nevada youth on our watch. This bill will ensure all Nevada youth are able to prevent, identify, deflect, and report online crimes against children and make sure that the Nevada youth are safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any youth legislators have questions for Youth Legislator Wolf? Youth Legislator Cohen.
Youth Legislator Cohen from Senate District 9 for the record. I was just wondering, would this be implemented in part of the health curriculum or would it require its own separate credit?
It would be in the health curriculum. So during the one semester they take, it'll just be implemented in that under the sex trafficking unit.
All right. Do any of the youth legislators have questions for Youth Legislator Wolf? Youth Legislator
I have a
Upstart.
question.
And then we'll go Youth Legislator Walsh.
So just a quick question. Do you have any idea how much adding this to the health curriculum would cost the state, either per student or overall?
I do not know the exact number, but most likely the state will have to come up with a curriculum, and then we obviously have to train our teachers so they're teaching the right curriculum. so I do not know the exact number.
All right, and then Youth Legislator Walsh.
My question was actually just answered, but I just want to say I can't specifically see anyone's like raising their hand, so I'm really sorry if I'm cutting you off by unmuting. I can't see anybody that can raise their hand, so I apologize for that.
You're all good. All right, do any youth legislators have questions? All right, I believe we are good to move on to Youth Legislator Chen. Thank you, Youth Legislator Wolf. And this is BDR 5. You can start when you're ready.
Youth Legislator Matthew Chen, representing Senate District 11 for the record. Today, I want to talk about an important proposal that could significantly improve safety in our school environments, especially during hectic pickup and drop-off times. My high school, Sierra Vista High School, took in 3,149 students during the 2023 to 2024 school year, according to the Nevada Department of Education. We have one of the biggest school populations in the Valley, and safety issues tend to multiply. This should not remain the norm. Parents are in a hurry, student drivers are trying to navigate the chaos while learning how to drive, and big buses are weaving through it all. It can get pretty overwhelming. That's precisely why I'm proposing a bill that would require Nevada's public schools to place one licensed crossing guard at every major stop-controlled intersection on the campus perimeter. This would be in effect during each school's standard pickup and drop-off times. Why is this necessary? Well, when you consider the 15 minutes before and after school are some of the most dangerous, it becomes very clear. Drivers are often rushing, not fully aware of their surroundings, and let's be honest, students crossing the street can sometimes seem a bit unpredictable. Without a licensed crossing guard, we see a steady flow of students crossing the street with cars just squeezing by and around them. This leaves students vulnerable to their parents, guardians, and student drivers late. We all want to look out for one another, but with so many moving parts, it can be a challenge. This bill is practical and necessary towards enhancing student safety. It aims to create standardized safety measures across all public schools in Nevada, making this not just a proposal, but a movement towards safer schools. And here's the exciting part, it would be the first bill of its kind. This isn't just about setting rules, it's about creating a supportive environment for everyone, students, parents, and staff alike. Knowing that a trained crossing guard is present to help direct traffic and watch out for everyone can make a world of difference. This proposal also alleviates some of the pressure on our campus security monitors, who already juggle numerous responsibilities during pickup and drop-off times. This includes checking IDs. It allows them to focus on other important security tasks rather than managing traffic flow. What about implementation? This proposal may require political subdivisions to hire more crossing guards for stop-controlled intersections around school campuses. CAN-TV states that this position pays $17 an hour in Clark County as of July 2024. However, volunteer crossing guards licensed are permitted as stated under NRS 484B.350. Organizations like Dads in Schools are eager and willing to help or make our schools safe environments. I've met with them personally and they're all on board. So what do we hope to achieve with this bill? We're looking at improved traffic flow and pedestrian safety, ultimately fostering a safer environment during these chaotic times. As a student at Sierra Vista, and I will emphasize, one of the most populated school populations in the Valley, I have experienced these challenges firsthand, which give me a unique perspective and a leg up in advocating for this policy implementation. In conclusion, I want to highlight that this proposal is more than just words. It's about being proactive and preventing accidents before they occur. Let's unite to support this initiative and work towards making our school environments safer for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any youth legislators have questions for Youth Legislator Chen? Youth Legislator McCarthy.
Youth Legislator McCarthy, for the record, do you have any ballpark number on how many additional crossing guards would be needed to support this bill? And any idea on if we have the supply, being people who want to be employed as crossing guards with, you know, the low wages that it comes with, to meet that number that we need?
Yeah, to start by the second part of the question, it does pay $17 an hour and it's 30 minutes, projected to be 30 minutes before and after school. And I understand that the volunteering would be like sparse. But to answer the first part of the question, because I understand that's the more important part, considering that there are around 670 public schools in Nevada on a rough average, 2 important stop-controlled intersections around the school perimeter on average. This would cost about $4,150,000 a year for 1,356 paid and licensed crossing guards. We have not, with these numbers, taken into account the nonprofits that are willing to help.
Thank you. Do any youth legislators have questions for Youth Legislator Chen? Youth Legislator Allen.
When you say licensing and training of said crossing guards, what does that particularly look like, and what is the financial burden for educational institutions?
Yeah, so I was looking for information regarding that, and across many sources on the web, hiring events happen periodically, more so like kind of before the school year starts at different county libraries, specifically in Clark County, but people can always contact the CCSD engagement unit for more info. But regarding training, I genuinely, and I wish I could help you on that. I did not find any information regarding that. So.
All right, thank you. Any of the youth legislators have questions? Youth Legislator Park.
So with the number of staff in most schools already being low, would we be able to implement a method of ways that schools could use current staff and give them training to be part of like this program instead of using this fiscal burden to find more people which is already a low amount, or especially volunteers or even people working jobs for a school?
That's a great perspective, and thank you for that. So assuming that contract hours are the standard school hours for staff, they could genuinely just pick that up for the 30 minutes before school and the 30 minutes after school to get that extra hour. I'm not sure how their contract hours work in terms of like after school activities, after school sports, tutoring, but that can definitely be looked at. And if you'd like more information, I can. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions at this time? Yes, Youth Legislator Chang.
Would it be possible to include student volunteers as part of this workforce?
So under law, they have to be 18 years or older to become a licensed school crossing guard. So I would understand that if they're with a volunteer organization or they're employed under the CCSD engagement unit and they are 18 years of age, then I can see how that would work. So.
All right, and that is time. Thank you, Youth Legislator Chen. We'll now move on to Youth Legislator Walsh for BDR 6. You can start when you're ready.
Thank you. Youth Legislator Walsh for the record. Okay. It's Monday morning. School starts in an hour. Maybe you forgot to do your homework over the weekend or studied for a big test. Either way, it's Monday. You go into class, the first bell rings, it's 7 a.m. You chat with your friends. How was your weekend? Did you see that new movie? Did we have any homework? It's 7:08. Your teacher begins the lesson. It's math. It's your favorite class and your favorite teacher. It's 7:12. You're taking a quiz. It's 7:15. You hear something in the hallway. Your teacher opens the door to investigate with another teacher standing by. There's another loud, sharp sound. Your favorite teacher drops to the ground, shot. You look on in horror, watching him bleed to death and listening to his agonized gasp for air. You're listening to him die. It's 7:16. Screams rip through your school. More shots. You hear the pleas of a friend, 12 years old, begging, please don't shoot me, please don't shoot me. 2 of your classmates are shot, both of them are dead. You think about your parents, wishing you could see them, knowing that those 2 students never will again. One final shot enters your school and one of your classmates takes his own life. You're no longer worried about your homework. The situation invades our TVs, our phones, and our lives. Yet you're probably thinking, is the situation I described Appalachia High School in Georgia, Oxford High School in Michigan, or Columbine High School in Colorado? No, this is Sparks Middle School in Sparks, Nevada, October 21st, 2013, a Monday. What do these acts of violence and many more have in common? All of these shootings were committed by minors who accessed their parents' legally owned firearms. This epidemic of violence isn't just in a homicidal situation. It can affect almost every young person, and it has. I knew a teenage boy in Las Vegas. He had just started high school. He was like any other teenage boy. He loved his friends, hated his homework, and played video games. One day, he invited his friends to his house. His parents weren't around, but their firearm was. He pulled out the firearm from an unlocked safe and proceeded to show off to his friends. It was all fun and games. Then a shot. He accidentally shot and killed himself in front of his friends with his parents' firearm. His friends will never be able to forget the sight. According to everystat.org, a database dedicated to gun violence statistics across the country, firearms are the leading cause of death among children and teens in Nevada. Roughly 40% of these deaths are suicide. In the state of Nevada, a minor cannot legally purchase a firearm. So where are they getting these firearms? One answer: negligent parents. No matter the circumstances, these deaths are a direct result of legally owned firearms being carelessly left accessible to minors. This is why I'm proposing a change to NRS 41.472, which currently can only hold a parent civilly liable, meaning they can only be fined, never sentenced to prison, for their minor causing bodily harm with their legally owned firearm if one of these very specific things happen. 1, the parent explicitly authorized use of their firearm for their minor. 2, the parent knows their child will commit violent acts. Or 3, the minor has been previously convicted of a criminal offense. In the situations I described earlier, none of these criteria apply. A classmate of the 12-year-old Sparks shooter describes him as a, quote, really nice kid. His parents did not authorize use of their firearm. They just carelessly left it out. The boy I knew had no intention to hurt himself. Neither boy had been convicted of a criminal offense. What do the parents of the Sparks shooter say in the aftermath of their son's triple homicide and suicide? One word: sorry. Sorry doesn't cut it. Sorry wouldn't cut it if a minor offered their parents legally bought alcohol to a friend and that friend died of alcohol poisoning. Sorry wouldn't cut it if a minor accessed their parents' legally prescribed medication and overdosed. So why is sorry acceptable with gun violence? This is why I'm proposing to remove the current requirement in NRS 41.472. The parent or guardian had any knowledge of potential misuse of the firearm and make a violation of this law a Category B felony punishable by 1 to 20 years in prison, as well as civil liability. Nevada youth are dying to parental firearm negligence. We must act to protect those we represent. This bill is something I thought of over 4 years ago when a classmate brought a loaded gun he accessed through parental negligence onto my middle school campus in Henderson. There have been too many incidents to name. You can fix this problem by selecting this bill. I would appreciate your support. I leave you with one last thought. It's Thursday. In a couple of days on Monday, you will walk into your favorite class with your favorite teacher. Think about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Youth Legislator Walsh. Do any Youth Legislators have questions for Youth Legislator Walsh? Youth Legislator Kane.
If a student is being tried as an adult after an act of gun violence, if a student is being tried as an adult after an act of gun violence in their high school, do you think it's appropriate to also charge a parent with like the same level of crime? Because if you're trying them as an adult, like you're kind of admitting that the parent has no, ability to control that person's behavior because they're almost like an adult.
Stop, I'm literally on it. Sorry, my mom's in the hotel room. Okay, sorry. So my bill actually has nothing to do with what prosecutors choose to do with their time. It's just the fact to make the case, the ability to prosecute parents who are negligent for their firearms. So whatever prosecutors or the DA choose to do in the state of Nevada has nothing to do with my bill. It's just to help make the ability to prosecute more broad, because right now a parent can only be held civilly liable for the 3 requirements I named earlier, and that's why I'm changing it. Just like we've seen in Georgia, a child took his parent's firearm, shot and killed some of his classmates, and their parent is being held criminally liable. So I would like, that cannot happen in the state of Nevada. So I would like the requirements to change, and whatever happens afterwards is the prosecutor's choice. That answers your question.
Thank you. Any other questions? Youth Legislator Obscar.
So, what would your bill do to parents who, just for lack of better phrasing, don't really care what their children do with their guns and they're being, I guess, purposefully negligent? Like, how would this help prevent that child from then going in to do something with that firearm?
Yes, thank you for your question. So this is sort of like, it prevents it in the way that if a parent knows that they can only get a slap on the wrist for something, as you just said, purposeful negligence, then with this bill making it, yes, you can be held criminally liable, going to prison. It's sort of telling them, like, this is what can happen. So this is why you should lock up your guns, because you have a responsibility to do so. Again, if a parent knows they can just be slapped on the wrist for something as detrimental as their child killing their teacher and 2 students, just like in Sparks in 2013, then they really have no incentive to keep the gun locked up besides an own moral responsibility, which, like you just mentioned, there can be cases where a parent might not have that. That answers your question.
Thank you. And I think Youth Legislator McCarthy had her hand up.
Youth Legislator McCarthy, for the record, I just want to clarify something on the document sent to all of us. At the bottom of your box, it says the bill would also make a violation of this law, category B felony, punished by 1 to 20 years in prison. Is that meaning you're making a specific crime for this situation, so the parent would not be tried for the exact same crime as the child, which, you know, in these cases would be murder? It would be something specific like criminal negligence.
The timer has gone off. If you can answer it very quickly, please do so.
Yes. So like I said, whatever the prosecutor chooses to do is past the bill's scope. However, the law is already written in the statute, NRS 41.472, which is criminal negligence of which is parental negligence of a firearm. I would just be making it criminally liable instead of civilly liable. The reason I chose category B felony is because it has that leniency. It can be 1 to 20 years in prison. All other category felonies under that is only 1 to 5. So again, it's to give the prosecutor more choice and the judge and everyone on that sentencing committee choice, because like I said, the offense could be 20 years, but it could also just be 1 or even less, because civil liability is still imposed as well.
Thank you. All right. We're going to go ahead and move on to Youth Legislator Allen with BDR 7. Let me start when you're ready.
Perfect. We can all walk into any classroom, can read anything on the wall, interact with our peers and our teachers. While we may not be able to solve for X or understand how this country came to be, we all have a basic understanding of the lesson presented to us. But more importantly, we can engage in the classroom setting. We can raise our hand and ask a question. Say, I don't understand. I'm confused. I need help. But in Nevada, there are 81,825 plus students who can't. 81,825 plus students who can't always advocate for themselves. 81,825 plus students who can't engage during instruction. 81,825 plus students who don't speak English. And none of this is their fault. But there is a burden on our educational institutions to provide said students with adequate resources to allow them to not only learn English at an accelerated rate, but actively engage in the classroom setting. And this burden, this need, is not being met in our classrooms. But in this meeting, in this space, this program, we can change that. But how? We first need to understand the status quo surrounding our classrooms and the impacts for English language learners, or ELLs. In the state of Nevada, there are 481,324 students attending public schools K through 12. Of those 481,000 plus students, 17% are ELLs, which equates to 81,825, according to New America in an article, Patterns of Progress for English Learners in Nevada. English language learners are students who are unable to communicate fluently or learn effectively in English, who often come from non-English speaking homes and backgrounds, and who typically require specialized or modified instruction in both the English language and in their academic courses. Nevada sees high immigration rates. In 2018, 587,686 immigrants comprised 19% of the population, according to the American Immigration Council. We are actively neglecting a major portion of our state's population. Because what do we see in our classrooms? A lack of paraprofessionals, a lack of modern technology, and a lack of live translators. Nevada Revised Statute 387.028 requires school districts to provide appropriate instructional programs in the native language of the ELL student when necessary, further enforced by the state constitution. My bill advocates for those who are not receiving adequate resources when learning English. My bill will require in-person translators, real-time audio translators, and/or the prioritization of teaching English before other curriculum. We need that support in the classroom for both students and teachers, and my bill aims to do just that. I've been asked, Kyle, why do you care? You're not bilingual, you've never experienced this. But in Honors Human Anatomy, the last period of the day, and I've watched a new student, day in and day out, struggle to interact with the lesson, talk with her peers, and communicate her needs, as I could see in her eyes the contest of this new learning environment. But more importantly, I saw her desire to learn, to thrive, and promote herself in this new environment. Nothing was going to hold her back. Nevada has an obligation to all of its students, not just some. It is time we start recognizing the issues of all, empathizing but never degrading personal situations, and lead for change for a better tomorrow in the classroom. Change may be hard, I recognize that, but it is not an excuse for not trying to achieve the best for every single student. It is time we come together to not just advance ourselves, but work together to advance everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any youth legislators have questions for Youth Legislator Allen? Youth Legislator Kane?
Do you know of like an estimated fiscal impact for this bill? Like how much would it cost the school district?
I do not have that at this time. I could further provide that should my bill move forward. But a big thing to understand here is we already do have a budget and specialized programs set aside for live in-person translators, real-time audio translators, and then again, the prioritization of teaching English before other curriculum. So there would be justifications within the limitations of this resolution, or of this bill, for school districts and for the State Board of Education.
Youth Legislator Cohen?
Youth Legislator Cohen, for the record. I just had a question about the prioritization. Does that mean the total exclusion of other important classes in the curriculum? And does that mean the teaching of English has to come before everything else?
Yes, so in certain terms. So with that, we would see English taking up a large percentage of the average workday for these students, the average school day. But with that, they would also be enrolled in other specialized programs. There would be class time spent outside of prioritizing English. But again, this is not the first priority of this bill. It would simply be in the case that in-person translators and real-time audio translators weren't available, or if the student needed that specialized prioritization of English with an IEP or a 504.
Youth Legislator Chang has a question.
Youth Legislator Chang, go ahead.
Youth Legislator Chang, Senate District 14 for the record. So in the thing we got sent, you mentioned specifically in-person translators and real-time audio translators. I'm not too familiar with these terms. Could you explain them a bit more to me?
Yeah, I most definitely can. So when I say in-person translators, this can come in two forms. So one, we see this with paraprofessionals who will act in two capacities in the classroom. One, that will be to actively translate to students who are considered ELLs, but then two, also work to be essentially their student advocate, to engage them, to make sure that their work is being completed on time. But then two, in-person translators can quite literally just be a translator, that their sole purpose is there to translate actively back as the teacher is lecturing or going over a lesson, and that would be essentially to allow them to still engage with core classes and still potentially electives, but just on their own terms as they're actively learning English. And then with real-time audio translators, that would be technology. In the case a paraprofessional or an in-person translator isn't available, that is technology that can translate whatever the teacher is saying to whatever their native language is.
I believe
Thank you, Legislator Alves-Flores.
I believe the time
the
is
time?
up, unless Tina, you want to allow any more?
Time is all right.
Okay.
Time is up. On. All right. Thank you. We'll move on to the next presenter. Thank you, Legislator Allen. All right. Youth Legislator Chong is with BDR 8.
This is Youth Legislator Chong, Senate District 13, for the record. Today, I stand in support of a bill draft request to protect young people in Nevada from the harmful effects of deepfake pornography. Deepfake pornography is a form of sexual content created by uploading a photo of a person to an AI tool, which creates a highly realistic sexualized photo or video of them. This content is easily spread online, and once it's on the internet, it never leaves. As technology rapidly improves, young people across the country have been terrorized by deepfakes at increasing rates. BDR-8 addresses this issue by outlawing the production and distribution of pornographic deepfakes. It also allows victims to seek private compensation from those who create these harmful images and videos. Finally, it holds websites that host sexual content accountable for their effects on youth. I know firsthand the damage that altered sexual content can cause. When I was just 10 years old, I received requests from strangers online to post innocent but strange videos on YouTube. One day, I discovered that these predators had edited these videos in sexual manners and posted them online. The embarrassment and shame that I felt were overwhelming, even though I had done nothing wrong. Nevada is significantly behind on this issue among the states. If we want to stop deepfake pornography, we must recognize it for what it is, a highly damaging sex crime. More than half of all U.S. states treat it the same way. BDR 8 classifies the production or distribution of non-consensual deepfake pornography as a Category C felony. These classifications align with existing media-related sex crimes in existing law, including child abuse and online sexual predation. Although this classification may seem acute, it primarily seeks to deter deepfake production rather than to excessively punish it. Time has shown this goal to be realistic. Deepfake production has significantly decreased within the states that have enacted deepfake laws. BDRA also addresses a root cause, youth exposure to pornography. Research links pornography to some consumption to desensitization and viewing peers as sexual objects, which fuels deepfake creation in the first place. BDR 8 follows the steps of nearly 20 other U.S. states in requiring robust ID-based age verification to access or upload sexual content online. Currently, most porn sites only require a user to click a button to confirm that they are over 18. BDR 8 blocks this loophole by requiring this verification to be done with a government ID, limiting youth exposure to pornography. The extra step of providing personal information also serves as a strong deterrent to posting such illegal content. Lastly, BDR 8 makes it easier for victims of deepfake pornography to seek compensation for damages. It allows victims to file confidential sealed civil lawsuits against those who produce or distribute deepfake content, seeking monetary damages per fake image or video. BDR 8 is not about punishing silly mistakes. It is about deterring deliberate, harmful actions. Creating or sharing deepfake pornography is not a careless mistake. It is a conscious choice to harass and humiliate someone without their consent. I hope that no one else has to experience what I and thousands of young people have endured. BDR 8 is a step toward that goal. I yield my time.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from youth legislators? First in the north. All right, seeing none. Youth Legislator Chang.
Excuse me, we do have a question. Go ahead, please. Did you have a question?
Would this bill require additional enforcement or additional fiscal responsibilities for the state?
Yes, I'll answer that question, Owen Chang. It would not. It has zero fiscal impact. It only allows there to be an additional crime classification for this type of crime. It allows someone to seek a civil lawsuit, and it allows these porn sites to be held accountable. So no, it does not require additional enforcement. It relies primarily on reporting. Thank you.
Thank you. Legislator Breeden.
Would having to collect IDs in order to enter like pornographic sites pose a privacy and security issue on who's getting that identification like requirement, and is that going to stay online forever?
No, according to the bill, it would not stay online forever. Of course, these sites, they can implement this age verification in various ways. There are third parties that do this age verification, and their terms of service state that these IDs are promptly deleted. But and if these sites were to violate their terms of conditions, that would, of course, be against the law.
Any other questions at this time? Yes, in the north. Oh, Youth Legislator Walsh, go ahead.
Oh, yes, thank you. I just had a question about, besides the age verification, how would making this a Category C felony make this specifically helping just, like, mostly Nevada youth, since that's kind of the primary goal of the BDR? I'm just wondering if you could elaborate more on that, how that just, like, that helps specifically, like, Nevada youth and young people.
Yes, Youth Legislator Walsh. It helps Nevada youth by serving as a deterrent to deepfake pornography production. In the states that have implemented this, it has acted mostly as a deterrent rather than as a punishment, which means that less people are being subjected to deepfake pornography and it's being created less, which does help Nevada's youth.
Thank you. Any other questions? In the north?
None in the north.
None in the north? All right. Thank you. We'll go ahead and thank you. We'll move on to, what do you have? Youth Legislator Chong just went, so we're moving on to Youth Legislator Park with BDR 9.
Youth Legislator Park representing Senate District 19 for the record. I'm here to propose a bill that seeks to address a crisis that has quietly taken the root of our communities and has become a silent generational problem that needs attention: youth drug use. We have all seen the statistics. In Nevada, over 15% of high school students report using illicit drugs, which include cocaine, heroin, or methamphetamines, at least once. Prescription drug misuse is also alarmingly common, with 1 in 7 Nevada teens admitting to abusing prescription painkillers without a doctor's consent. The rise in opioid misuse is particularly troubling, with Nevada ranking among the top states in opioid-related deaths. But these numbers are more than just statistics. Behind each of them is a person, someone who could be a future leader, a future doctor, a future parent, a future lawyer. Yet, without meaningful intervention, many of them will not reach their potential because they're caught in the devastating cycle of addiction. The reality is stark. In many parts of Nevada, young people, our students, our athletes, our dreamers, are turning to drugs at an alarming rate. They're looking for an escape, for a way to relieve the pressures that they face every day. And why? Because we have not given the tools they need to make healthier choices. Our schools do not have the resources to adequately educate them. Our communities don't have sufficient services to support them. And when they do fall into addiction, treatment is often too inaccessible or unavailable for minors. And this is why I stand before you today to advocate for the Youth Drug Prevention and Recovery Act, a bill that would create a comprehensive statewide program aimed at preventing drug use among our youth and offering real recovery options for those already struggling. This is not just another education program. This bill goes further, filling in the critical gaps that exist between awareness, support, and treatment. First, this proposal mandates a standardized evidence-based drug education curriculum in all Nevada public and charter schools, starting from middle school. Currently, many of our schools do not have the resources to properly educate students on the dangers of drug use, which are, especially when it comes to substances like opioids and prescription drugs, which are easily accessible to many teenagers. Education is a front line of defense. When young people understand the long-term health risks, the legal consequences, and more importantly, the power of saying no to peer pressure, they make better choices, but we need to give them those tools. But prevention alone is not enough. Many of these children are already at risk, living in environments where drugs are easily available or perhaps even normalized. For them, we need more than just words in the classroom. That's why this bill also creates community outreach centers across the state, partnering with local organizations to provide mentorship, counseling, and after-school programs aimed specifically at risk youth. These centers will serve as safe havens, giving young people the support system they need to stay off the streets and out of dangerous situations where drugs are present. And for those who have already fallen into addiction, those who feel that they have no way out, this bill establishes state-funded rehabilitation services for minors. Right now, Nevada lacks sufficient resources tailored to young people specifically battling addiction, and that needs to change. With this proposal, we will find youth-specific inpatient and outpatient treatment facilities that are accessible, affordable, and equipped to address not only the substance abuse, but also the mental health issues that accompany it. This bill is not just an investment in prevention and recovery. It's an investment in our future, in the next generation of Nevadans who will drive our economy, communities, and our state forward. The 20 to 30% of our population that the youth make up will make up 100% of our future. Imagine the impact we could have if we give our youth the resources, education, and support they need to say no to drugs and yes to a brighter future. Imagine in Nevada, where fewer families are torn apart by addiction, where schools are safer, and where our young people can thrive in environments that support their health and well-being. It is time for us to act, not just as legislators, but as leaders who care about the future of this state. I ask you to join me in passing the Youth Drug Prevention and Recovery Act, and together we can build a Nevada that protects its youth, that nurtures their potential, and provides them with the opportunities they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Youth Legislator Park. Any questions? Youth Legislator McCarthy.
Youth Legislator McCarthy for the record. Can you tell me about any numbers you may have about possible fiscal impact for the outreach centers and the state-funded rehabilitation services and treatment facilities?
So unfortunately, I do not have the exact numbers when it comes to the fiscal impact of this bill, and it will cost will be involved, especially with all the parts addressed in this bill. But I asked you to sort of consider the alternative. The cost of doing nothing is far greater. The toll on our healthcare system from overdoses, the strain on our criminal justice system from youth-related drug crimes, and the long-term economic losses when these young people fail to finish school or enter the workforce, all of this is more expensive than funding a program designed to prevent these outcomes in the first place.
Thank you. Any other questions? Youth Legislator Roganti.
What specific budget would you see this being funded by?
So, because of the multiple parts of this bill, it's important that we address it kind of separately. For school curriculum, it wouldn't. We just have to incorporate part of the health curriculum into talking about drug education and objective drug education, sort of what we did with sexual education for middle school and high schoolers. For community centers and outreach centers and treatment centers, it will have a fiscal impact that needs to be measured, but I want to work with public and private companies that will allow us to create these needs and allow us to demonstrate these needs and meet these needs in the end, and allow us to create these centers that allow that is in favor for youth, and more so not trying to reduce the problem in general. And we can try to get not only like government federal grants, or if it's specific public and private nonprofits that are aimed at helping this specific issue.
All right. And then Youth Legislator Nguyen had a question.
Youth Legislator Wynn, for the record, how will these community outreach centers ensure that they are accessible to all students, particularly in underserved or rural areas?
Drug prevention resources is a major issue for rural areas, especially in Nevada, where we have such a big disparity between major cities and then smaller towns. So the importance of flexibility in this program does matter, and the delivery and potential partnerships with local organizations that are already embedded in these communities is important to consider when we are looking to create these rehabilitation centers or outreach centers for these youth people. So if we could implement not only like a physical center, but online education modules and mobile outreach centers that could supplement in-person programs in these areas where there might not be enough resources to be able to actually fund these programs, that could still be a viable alternative that we could consider.
Thank you. Youth Legislator Kane, got a question? No, got a salt. All right, Youth Legislator Alvarez Flores.
Youth Legislator Alvarez Flores, for the record. Would this BDR even be possible for underfunded schools?
That's time, if you can answer it very quickly.
So to stress, it would be more focused on districts to provide the resources for these schools to implement this program. It's not going to be like the separate, you need like a separate teacher, but it will just be a specific like module in almost like a curriculum class.
Thank you. All right. We're going to move on to BDR Proposal 10 by Youth Legislator Chang. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Good afternoon. Youth Legislator Chang from Senate District 14 speaking for the record. Dual enrollment classes are a valuable resource for students to learn advanced courses and gain college credit at discounted prices. In Nevada, this is primarily accomplished through partnerships between high schools and regional universities, like Nevada System of Higher Education, NSHE, and California schools. However, access to these opportunities is uneven, with Douglas, Lyon, and Story counties having fewer graduating students with dual enrollment credits. The statewide average for dual enrollment class participation is 25.8% per graduating class. However, Pershing County has 0 students graduating with dual enrollment credits. Douglas County has merely 10%. I do not believe that these students are any less driven or any less desirable of learning. Instead, they are limited by geographical factors. Expanding access to dual enrollment courses would address educational inequalities in Nevada while also helping students within Nevada learn. Dual enrollment has many benefits for students, allowing them to begin earning college credits while still in high school, and at a discounted rate. Though there are existing avenues for dual enrollment, these opportunities are not equal. The solution would be to allow students to enroll directly in NSHE institutions to gain access to online classes. Though there are existing avenues for high school students to enroll in NSHE institutions, namely through Truckee Meadows Community College and the University of Nevada, Reno, these avenues can be difficult and are geographically limited. Expanding access would bring the benefits of dual enrollment to more high school students. The bill would do 3 things. Require agreements between high schools in Nevada and NSHE schools to establish a path for dual enrollment in NSHE schools. Require that these courses provide both college and high school credit, and require that these courses cost no more than $100 per class. There are numerous NSHE institutions throughout Nevada, many of which offer online instruction. These classes can be utilized to offer classes to students even if they do not live close to an in-person campus. Offered through various community colleges and universities, these online courses could provide students with valuable college credits and challenge them with university-level coursework. There exists legislative precedent for such a proposal. NRS 389-310 provides for high school students to enroll in dual credit programs. This proposal would simply broaden the scope of this statute and ensure that access is not limited by geography or financial constraints. Such a program would have many benefits. Dual enrollment courses, again, would allow students to graduate college earlier and at less financial burden, opening doors to the future. Dual enrollment courses would challenge students with college-level classes, expanding their horizons. And dual enrollment courses could offer fields of education that high schools might not offer. The future of Nevada lies in its youth, through their education, through their growth, and through their development. Limiting their access, intentionally or unintentionally, through financial and geographic barriers, does us no good and only creates an unequal playing field. These are issues that we ought to address and these issues will be addressed in BDR 10. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do any legislators have any questions? Youth Legislator Kane.
So in rural areas, to enroll in dual enrollment classes, would they take them online, like if they're not close to a university? And if so, what if a student doesn't have access to internet or a computer? Would that be another barrier to dual enrollment?
Just as a clarification, is this in the status quo or in the bill, after the bill is passed?
After the bill is passed.
Yes. So they would be enrolled in online courses with these entry institutions. For example, Truckee Meadows and Great Basin community colleges both offer entirely online classes. Unfortunately, internet access is not universally available throughout Nevada. However, that is entirely outside of the scope of the bill.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, we have
Youth
Youth
Legislator Walsh.
Legislator. Oops.
Youth Legislator Walsh and Roganti, is that right?
I'll stand by.
Go ahead. All right, Youth Legislator Walsh.
Yes, thank you. My question, because you mentioned that, and this is already kind of happening, but you're talking about academic inequalities, and you mentioned that some schools will be able to take their dual enrollment courses through University of Nevada, Reno, and others would be taking it through community colleges, which obviously the two institutions have different levels of academic rigor. How would you address those inequalities within that? If a student is taking a course through a community college versus through a more universally accepted four-year university?
Well, a community college still offers the college credit, and the curriculum still fundamentally remains the same. If a student is taking English 101 at Truckee Meadows or at UNR, they're still taking English 101. Does that answer your question?
Yes, but I was just wondering, if for kind of academic mobility, if a student wishes to take their dual enrollment courses to get college credit outside of the state of Nevada, some colleges accept UNR over community college. I'm just wondering how you would address that specifically in this bill.
Unfortunately, the University of Nevada, Reno doesn't offer online courses for all of their classes. For certain math and English classes, they do so. I'm not sure about others. However, the community colleges do offer entirely online classes, and that remains the best solution without adding unnecessary costs or financial burdens to students.
Thank you. Any questions in the north?
Yes,
All
Youth
right.
Legislator Roganti.
Yes, Youth Legislator Roganti, go ahead.
I was looking at your summary, and it says on the third part, the cap total registration fees for each such course charged to a pupil at $100. So since we're kind of reducing the cost for high schoolers, would there be a fiscal impact? Like, who would be covering the additional money?
And time is up, so can
Timer
you just finish real quick?
Yes. So in essence, these online courses can be expanded nearly indefinitely. There are some course caps, obviously, for standard reasons, but a lot of these online courses are at a quarter or half capacity. And so these students are simply participating in classes without taking up the slot of an actual university or college student. So there shouldn't be any financial burden since we're not replacing a tuition, we're simply adding one on.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Youth Legislator Coughlin with BDR 11. Go ahead and start when you're ready.
This is Youth Legislator Mackenzie Coughlin, representing District 1 for the record. My idea for a bill proposal is to mandate regular awareness campaigns or assemblies at least once per year on the topic of mental health in high schools. While many schools have mandatory anti-bullying campaigns and occasionally a mental health campaign, the campaigns that I would like to mandate would incorporate the usage of resources such as mental health apps, encouraging each student to download a designated app such as Saluna, which is a no-cost mental health app for youth between the ages of 13 and 25 years old. This mandate would focus on lowering the high rates of mental health issues among Nevada's youth, primarily at the high school level, by optimizing mental health care access. This would not only benefit youth mental health, but also improve Nevada's low ranking among states for its limited access to mental health services. According to an article from the Nevada Independent, Nevada's youth has the 9th highest prevalence of mental illness and the lowest rates of access to care in the nation. Additionally, 72% of those ages 12 to 17 with depression say they did not receive any form of mental health care in the last year, with Nevada ranking last in the country for youth access to mental health services. While students have access to school counselors or psychologists, Nevada schools have only one school psychologist per every 1,866 students on average, and it would require a large fiscal amount to hire the appropriate number of psychologists, especially with the shortage of mental health professionals across the nation. My legislative response has been modeled on the recent actions of California's legislature to tackle the youth mental health crisis. As a part of California's initiative, they introduced 2 apps with free mental health services. I previously mentioned one of these apps, Saluna, which provides resources and live coaching with no income or insurance requirements. By raising awareness and encouraging all students to download the same or similar mental health app, where they can receive live assistance from a coach or even just browse through and utilize the free tools, Nevada's youth will have simplified access to mental health resources, which will allow them to receive the confidential and necessary attention that many of them need. Through this proposal, I also hope to alleviate the urgency in finding and hiring more mental health care professionals in schools. While my proposal may not be a long-term solution, it can give the youth a readily available resource to address their mental and emotional needs for the short term. Furthermore, the possible fiscal impact of my proposal should be very minimal to non-existent. The awareness campaigns or assemblies that my proposal would mandate are only required to take place at least once per year at each high school. The schools could organize the awareness campaigns as they see fit, using their already existing health and wellness curriculum materials if they so choose. Additionally, the mental health apps that schools would advocate for and encourage their students to use are already free of cost, so there should be no expenses for the local or state government, schools, or students. All students should have access to the resources they need for their mental and emotional well-being, as having a healthy state of mind can have a direct impact on an individual's physical health, social health, and nearly every other aspect of their daily life. With my proposal, I hope to improve the access to mental health services in Nevada and thus improve the lives of the students I go to school with every day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions from youth legislators? Youth Legislator Hopscart.
Youth Legislator Upskart, for the record. Sorry, I've been forgetting to do that before, but so you said that you were gonna mandate assemblies on mental health awareness. So, like, how large are these assemblies gonna be? Like, grade by grade, the whole school, a single class? Because like sometimes the larger the assembly gets, the harder it is to just get people to pay attention, for lack of better phrasing.
Thank you for your question. As previously mentioned, it would be entirely up to the school themselves, as some schools do an assembly for the entire school at one time, whereas others will divide it by grade, program, or some other, determiner. And the reason for that was because some schools will have an easier ability to reallocate their time throughout a single day, whereas others don't. So I would hope that they would do it in a way that promotes student attention, but at the same time, I do recognize that it will be difficult to address the attention spans of each student.
Thank you. And then I believe Youth Legislator Chen is next.
Youth Legislator Chen for the record. And I was just wondering what the edge was that kind of like students gain from having an assembly or a campaign rather than a mandate or a newsletter, because a campaign or assembly still doesn't ensure that the students use the resource. So what do you think the edge of having the assembly or campaign would be?
With the assembly or campaign, I mean, since it would be at most schools, I guess my reasoning is that when you're among other students of your age, if you see other students who are paying attention and downloading the app, it'll encourage you to do the same. But at the same time, not every student needs the resources that are provided by free mental health apps. So for the students maybe who need these campaigns would be the ones who are most likely paying attention and are more open to downloading or using the resources that are available.
Thank you. And then Youth Legislator Allen, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Youth Legislator Allen, for the record. Because maybe I missed it in your presentation, and because it's not outlined in the briefs, will you just kind of summarize who would be organizing and putting on these assemblies and health campaigns?
For the assemblies and health campaigns, again, it would mostly be up to the schools and what their abilities are, whether it's through their own funding or through the resources they already have. For example, most schools have a health curriculum that all students are required to take, whether it's 1 semester, 1 year, it varies a little bit. But using either the mental health, not necessarily module, but little curriculum that they have included in that, or if they were to partner with a nonprofit organization, would be up to them. So depending on whether they have that mental health curriculum, they could use their health teachers or their own staff, or if they had a nonprofit organization they were partnering with, they would use the staff of that organization.
All right, thank you. And then we're going to go ahead and move on to BDR 12, which is Youth Legislator Kane. So you can begin when you're ready.
Hello, I'm Youth Legislator Kane from Senate District 8, and I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to present my bill to you today. My bill is about a pilot program that would be designed to put metal detectors in schools, and before I start talking about my bill, I want to explain to you my motivation. In his junior year of high school, my brother, who was a student at West Tech, went into school on his birthday with the intention of taking an AP exam, as I'm sure many of us have done before. As he was taking his AP exam, he closed his booklet after completing his last question, and it was announced that his school was going to go under a lockdown. They were unsure of whether there was a weapon or bomb on campus, but there was some sort of threat perceived by the administration on campus. And my brother was not only scared and frightened, but those around him were scared and frightened and stressed, which caused him to become scared and frightened and stressed. And he was trying to calm down those people around him, but it's hard when you're in that kind of situation. It puts stress on everyone. And that's not an experience that I think anyone should have to go through on their birthday or any other day of the year. And while the incident that happened at West Tech turned out to be a false alarm, there are plenty of schools where that's not a false alarm. And parents never see their child again. Students never see their favorite teacher again. Teachers never see their students again. And peers can't interact the same way in their classrooms anymore because of what happened in them. I don't want to live in a world where students are scared to go to school. Now, at Liberty High School in Nevada, there were 9 weapons found on campus in the month of August. Keep in mind that August wasn't a full month of being in school. Some of us started on the 8th and some of us started on the 12th. So not even a month of being in school, and 9 weapons were found on campus. The school district has already invested money in putting metal detectors in schools for football games. They are aware that gun violence in schools is an issue, and they're putting metal detectors in for football games so that students feel more safe. I think we should feel safe every day, and we should have metal detectors every day. My constituency from my town hall meeting and people I've talked to from my school have told me that they are scared of gun violence and scared of things that could happen to them at schools when there's not metal detectors and no protections in place to help them. This is an issue that is affecting all Nevada youth and something that has been brought to me. And as a Nevada youth legislator, I think it's our responsibility to represent our constituency in the bill that we bring forth. The school district themselves have a quote put out that says it only takes 3 seconds to walk through a metal detector. 3 seconds. Is 3 seconds going to delay any of us from getting to school? No. As we came into this building today, we went through a metal detector. Did that cause a delay of this meeting? No. Time is not an issue. Student safety is an issue. Metal detectors have been in use since the 1980s in schools in Detroit, and metal detectors can be a proven deterrent for bringing weapons on campus. In 2021, 2022, and 2023, there was the highest increase in school shootings since 2008, according to CNN. There were at least 82 incidents in 2023, but 2022 was one of the deadliest years with 46 fatalities. 46 fatalities. Can you imagine if that was someone you knew from school, a student, a peer, a friend? I don't want to live in a world where that's a student, a peer, or a friend. Thank you.
All right, any questions from youth legislators? Legislator Opsgarden, then we'll go up to the north.
Okay, so you had a youth legislator, I've forgotten for the record, but you had mentioned in your presentation, your speech, whatever it's called, that it wouldn't like delay kids entering the school, but when you're dealing with thousands of kids going into a school and some of them wearing belts or metal earrings or they have like metal zippers on their backpack, how would this help? How would this flow essentially? Like how would it not cause a delay?
Right. So when we walked in here, some of us are wearing belts or other things, and that didn't cause an issue with the metal detectors. And as I said, people that work with CCSD have said that it only takes 3 seconds to walk through a metal detector, which wouldn't theoretically cause a delay in school starts. And plenty of students show up early for school, so that wouldn't cause an issue. I think it's more about student safety and less about school start times, if that was even an issue, which I don't believe it would be.
All right, anyone in the north with questions?
I have questions. Yes, Youth Legislator Chang.
Youth Legislator Chang, go ahead.
So one part of this question is a follow-up to Youth Legislator Opsgarden. Another is entirely unrelated. So first of all, would bags also be searched or put through a metal detector? Because I don't think anyone brings a knife to school like on their person. And second of all, what would happen to, say, a hypothetically detected weapon?
So if a weapon was detected on campus, obviously it would be confiscated, but the bill is designed in a way that if we find 10 weapons on a campus in a 30-day period, that's when a metal detector would be placed in a school. So it's more about how many weapons you find on campus in a certain time period and less about like the metal detectors won't even be on campus if they're not necessary, if that makes sense. And secondly, to address your issue about start times, backpacks and things, the backpacks would go through a separate system and they could be searched if there was reasonable suspicion.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? Youth Legislator, go ahead. Cohen. Not Cohen, Conyers. Go ahead, Youth Legislator Conyers.
What is the potential fiscal impact of these metal detectors and who will provide the funding for this?
So the Clark County School District has already purchased $3.7 million worth of metal detectors, which is 43 metal detectors for football games, which could be moved to different schools when they weren't necessary at those football games for the pilot program. Since it's a pilot program, the physical impact would be smaller. So essentially you would need to pay a security guard an hour or so more wages for the morning work they would do in operating the metal detectors, which wouldn't be a significant physical impact, especially when you consider that we're protecting Nevada's youth, the lives of Nevada's youth.
Thank you. Then we'll go to Youth Legislator Breed.
And Youth Legislator Briganti also.
I think
That's
we're at
time.
time.
Nope.
All right. We're going to go ahead and move on to BDR 13, presented by Youth Legislator Villatoro.
Thank you.
I would like to start off by saying thank you to my fellow youth legislators, Ms. Ashdown and Senator Wiener, for an amazing first half of our term. My proposal is the Enhanced Support for English Language Learners Act. It is designed to provide targeted support for English language learners and empower our educators. A few key points that have stood out to me are, to start off, professional development. We will mandate regular training for teachers on best practices for ELL students. So this would include strategies for differentiated instruction, cultural competency training, and language acquisition techniques. Also, culturally relevant curriculum. We aim to ensure that our curriculum reflects the diverse backgrounds of our students, making learning more relatable and effective. Now, I'm not saying to change our curriculum as a whole, just to simply use inclusive content like diverse perspectives. The curriculum should include text, resources, and materials from various cultures and communities. This could mean featuring authors, historians, and scientists from diverse backgrounds, or incorporating traditions and customs that reflect students' heritage, as well as culturally responsive teaching practices. This includes differentiated instruction by tailoring lessons to meet the varied learning styles and cultural context of students. This could involve using visual aids, group work, hands-on activities that draw on students' experiences. Language inclusivity is also a big thing. So offering bilingual materials or using students' home languages to support comprehension and engagement. This not only aids learning, but also honors their linguistic backgrounds. Community and parental involvement. This is extremely important because we will foster stronger connections with families through outreach programs and workshops to support English language learners. The issues that we face in schools are not only with English language learners, but it's also with families and with what families go through in order to support their children at school when both the parents and students don't know English. Also, accountability. We will implement assessment strategies to evaluate program effectiveness and continuously improve our approaches based on data. Lastly, resource allocation. We propose increased funding for emergent bilingual programs, ensuring that resources are readily available to support our teachers as well as our students. While initial investments are necessary, the long-term benefits far outweigh these costs. By improving educational outcomes for English language learners, we not only enhance their individual futures, but also foster a stronger, more equitable society. Many great educators have been in education for many years, but still struggle with strategies to support our emergent bilingual students. One particular school has provided an emergent bilingual strategist who not only helps the students, but also the educators, with strategies to support them as they navigate into adapting into a new culture. That particular funding is provided by the principal's discretion and not necessarily the government. The education system does not have money allocated for this extra support for all of our schools, and therefore I propose that we ask our district to provide extra funding for the much needed influx of newcomers. Let's ensure that every student has the opportunity to succeed, paving the way for a brighter future for all. The expected outcome by passing this bill would be enhanced academic performance for English language learners, skilled and confident educators, targeted resource utilization, and stronger family and community engagement. Ultimately, we will create a more equitable and supportive educational environment that addresses the needs of all students.
All right, thank you. Legislator Breeden has the first question.
How would implementing this look different from schools where minorities are a majority in comparison to schools where minorities may make up less than 10% of the student body? Sorry about that. Youth Legislator Breeden, District 4.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm understanding this, like if there's more multilingual students at a school, this would help them rather than a school that doesn't have many multilingual students? Is that what you mean?
I'm more so looking for how we can deal with schools where minorities and multilingual students are larger in comparison to schools where it may only be a few students and it may be difficult to reach them.
Yeah, so no matter what the percentage or the ratio of the students. I believe that all students should have the right or the ability to learn and the accessibility. So using the resources needed to support the students that don't speak English and don't understand English and that are newly learning. I think it doesn't matter how many students that don't speak English go to a school. I think it mainly matters how we can support them no matter the numbers at the school. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other youth legislators at this time? Youth Legislator Alvarez Flores, go ahead.
Youth Legislator Alvarez Flores for the record. I heard you mention that you believe that all students deserve the opportunity to learn. How would non-district schools be included, specifically charter schools that are considered Title I and host a majority of minority students?
That's a really great question. Thank you. That's something that I'd really like to look into now that you brought it up. So I would love to touch base on that. And I can get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions at this time? I'd ask a question. Do we have any idea on the cost of the program as of yet?
No, not at the moment. Obviously, it is going to cost money, but ideally, I think our main focus is being able to get students to have the same opportunities as students that speak English, but not as of right now, we don't have.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions at this time? Seeing none in the north. All right, we are good to continue on to Youth Legislator Conyers with BDR 14.
One of the biggest issues facing Nevada currently is our quality of education. Out of the 50 states, we rank 44th in educational quality. And while there are many factors that go into how quality education is, I believe that we can all agree that one of the most important factors is our teachers and educators. And so therefore, one of our first solutions to this would be making sure that teachers can be at their absolute best and also encouraging more people to become teachers. And I believe that the two parts to my bill draft request can put that into light. The first part requires all teachers to participate in CE courses or continued education courses to receive at least 18 credits every 2 years. Continued education would allow these teachers to improve their skills as an educator, and it would also improve the overall level of education. And this wouldn't be too much additional work for our teachers because they have a great amount of time in order to take these courses, and it has the potential to increase their salaries. And then, now that we figured out how to improve the quality of the teachers we have, how can we encourage more people to become teachers? I believe that we can do this through offering student loan forgiveness. The second part of this bill draft request requires that all all future educators, or for every that $50,000 worth of student loan forgiveness should be offered to any future educator that partakes in a dual credit program and gets their bachelor's degree with at least a GPA of 3.0. This would encourage more people to become teachers because student loans is one of the biggest and most well-known concerns in the US, with many people not willing to go to college because they are worried about being in crippling student debt. And so many people would jump at the opportunity to become an educator if it meant they could access this student loan forgiveness. So overall, this bill has the potential to increase educator skills through continued education, while also encouraging more people to become educators through the potential to increase salaries and potential student loan forgiveness. And then let's think about I project that with this decision alone, we can bring Nevada from 44th in our educational rank all the way to at least the top 20. And think about what we can do to improve education from there.
Time.
And then think about with our improved then think about that apologies. Think about what we can improve with improvements in education. A good amount of people that suffer from mental health issues can claim that part of it comes from education. We would have better health care as the students have been better educated, and people can be more ready for a career. Matter of fact, more people would be interested in the Nevada Youth Legislature if they were better educated. And all of that starts with this. Here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and jump right into questions. I believe it was Youth Legislator Cohen that had his hand up first.
Youth Legislator Cohen from Senate District 9 for the record. I just had two questions to ask you. So the first one was about the loan. So you were talking about forgiveness. So does that mean upon receiving the $50,000 that they will be excused from having to pay it back? And the second question I had was the qualification that teachers needed to receive those loan payments. Do they have to attend an in-state? Does the dual enrollment have to come from an in-state college? And how long do they have to be a teacher for in order to qualify for that loan?
For the first question, yes. For $50,000 they borrowed, they would not have to pay. And for the second question, I'm sorry, can you repeat the second part of your question?
Youth Legislator Cohen for the record. It was just asking about the qualifications needed for a teacher to receive the $50,000 in payments, such as where they had the dual enrollment and how long they've been a teacher.
Yes, that would require to have attended an in-state college, but they would. I'm not 100% sure on how many years we would require, but based on my current recommendation, I believe at least 4 years as an educator should be enough to qualify for this loan forgiveness.
All right, thank you. And then I believe Youth Legislator Walsh had her hand up first.
Yes, thank you. My question was about, you said this would require every 2 years a teacher would need to complete a certain amount of credits. I'm just wondering, because you want more teachers to be in the profession, or people to be in the profession, but I'm just wondering how this is going to help the veteran teachers, those that are 10 plus years, that are already obviously overworked and underpaid, and now you're adding more work onto their load. I'm just wondering how that would help them want to stay in the profession instead of just suffering from burnout and eventual early retirement?
Well, the priority of these CE courses would be their convenience, and this wouldn't be too much additional work because we can make them virtual classes that are just they can just attend a couple lectures to receive their credits, and if we do this through something such as a virtual meeting, then they can be educated on the basics of child psychology, along with more in-depth with their topic, to go more in depth into their topic. But overall, I do not believe it would be too much work, as we have a great amount of time to complete these credits.
Youth
All right, thank you. And then Youth
Legislator.
Legislator Chang.
Hi, Youth
Legislator
Legislator Chang for the record. So how 18 credits is a lot. So would the teachers have to pay for these 18 credits out of pocket, or would they simply be compensated by the state?
That was time. If you can answer it quickly, then please do.
My plan is for the state to pay for these courses, as they'd be the ones requiring teachers to take these courses.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have BDR 15 from Youth Legislator Nguyen. You can go ahead and start when you're ready.
Youth Legislator Nguyen, for the record. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to first start off by thanking everyone for the opportunity to present my BDR. Nevada faces significant educational challenges, including a severe teacher shortage that has led to higher student-to-teacher ratios and overcrowded classrooms, particularly in the largest school districts of Nevada, Clark County, and Washoe County. This leaves students at a disadvantage, especially those without access to additional academic support. There are currently about 3,000 vacant teaching positions statewide, which negatively impacts many students, particularly those who require additional academic support from tutors or engaged parents. This is where adults from diverse backgrounds and professions can come into play. By stepping in as volunteers, they can help fill these gaps in education, offering students unique perspectives and skills that complement the traditional classroom experience. Engaging more volunteers with varied expertise will help bridge knowledge gaps and provide students with the additional support they need to succeed academically. To address these issues, my proposal aims to engage more adults from diverse backgrounds and professions as volunteers in schools. In 2017, Senate Bill 287 was passed. This bill requires that volunteers at a public school and employees and volunteers at a private school undergo background checks, and a background check to be performed on each unlicensed employee and volunteer at least once every 5 years. While this policy is crucial for ensuring the safety of students, the process is lengthy. In order to become a volunteer, you must go through a lengthy process of background checks and fingerprinting that costs you money. For example, in Clark County School District, the fee for fingerprinting and background checks is $55. Additionally, since these background checks are managed by the FBI, processing times can range from 4 weeks to even longer, deterring potential volunteers due to these extended wait times. My proposal seeks to streamline the fingerprinting and background check process to reduce delays and make it easier for qualified individuals to contribute their time and talents. By expediting the process and reducing unnecessary steps, we can engage a broader range of volunteers who can bring valuable experiences and perspectives to enrich the educational environment. To expedite the fingerprinting and background check process for school volunteers, I propose several key changes. First, removing fees for fingerprinting would eliminate a financial barrier and encourage more individuals to volunteer. Second, authorizing local law enforcement agencies, such as the Metro Police, to perform background checks would help reduce the backlog and speed up the approval process. And finally, allowing volunteers to begin working under supervision while their background checks are being processed would ensure that qualified individuals can start contributing their time and skills without unnecessary delay. These changes would streamline the process and make it easier for schools to engage a diverse range of volunteers. Overall, the bill seeks to increase volunteer participation by streamlining the fingerprinting and background check process, making it easier and faster for adults to start volunteering. Volunteers can play a crucial role in offering personalized assistance to students, which is essential given the current shortage of full-time teachers. Additionally, allowing volunteers from various backgrounds, including parents with professional expertise and college students in pre-professional programs, can bring diverse perspectives into the classroom, enriching the educational environment and addressing gaps in student learning. The proposal also aims to waive background check fees, allowing law enforcement agencies to conduct fingerprinting and enabling volunteers to assist under direct supervision while their full background check is processed. This legislative response is designed to improve educational outcomes by expanding the pool of available support, enhancing the quality of education, and ensuring that more community members can effectively contribute to supporting Nevada students.
Thank you. All right, any questions from youth legislators at this time? Youth Legislator Chen, go ahead.
Yeah, Youth Legislator Chen for the record. And I just wanted some clarity on where these volunteers would be placed. So would they be like kind of volunteer teachers and act as some sort of substitute due to the vacancy?
The proposal aims to have these volunteers come in, I guess, after school for mentorship programs to kind of mentor these students and provide them with some, I guess, to help bridge these knowledge gaps that these students may be missing.
Thank you. Youth Legislator Breeden.
If Youth Legislator Breeden, District 4 for the record, if they're coming in after school, that would mean they'd have to use a pre-existing room, like with a teacher. So would that teacher have to stay with that volunteer as well, thus needing to get paid more to monitor the space?
Yes, and to provide and to address the financial part of that, this would require some, I believe, state funding to cover for the after-school hours that the teachers are in.
All right, thank you. And then we'll go over to Youth Legislator Kane.
Do you know how you would pay for fingerprinting and background checks? And additionally, do you think there's a safety concern with allowing volunteers whose background checks haven't been completed on campus, even under supervision?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the second question?
I think there would be a safety concern allowing volunteers on campus who haven't completed background checks, even with supervision.
Yes, so to address the second question, in terms of safety, the proposal would require a teacher or a school staff in the room in order for the volunteer to be interacting with these students. And for the first question, as I mentioned before, the proposal would aim to have state funds allocated to cover these costs.
Thank you. All right, any other questions at this time from the north? Anyone who hasn't asked a question yet? All right, I think we're good. So we're going to move on to BDR 16, presented by Youth Legislator Alvarez Flores. You can start when you're ready.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to share my proposal today. My proposal addresses the critical issue of equitable funding in Title I low-income charter schools in Nevada. The current situation is that Senate Bill 231 allocated $250 million to raise pay for public school educators, but unfortunately, it left out educators working in Title I low-income public charter schools. This has created inequity, not only to educators, but more significantly towards the students attending these schools. The lack of equitable funding has led to various challenges for Title I low-income charter schools, including difficulties in retaining qualified educators, providing student transportation, maintaining buildings, and offering better academic programs. I have attended a Title I low-income public charter school in East Las Vegas, Nevada. Since 2017, this school, Equipo Academy, is a college prep school for 6th through 12th grade geared towards empowering future first-generation college students to excel to and through college, while becoming transformational leaders within their communities. Teachers I have grown to admire for their dedication to their students' education have recently left their school. Although their passion for their work has not changed, the inflation in our city has. The work of our teachers is equivalent to the commitment at surrounding public schools. However, the pay they receive is not. Because funding was not allocated towards schools like ours, devoted teachers have been forced to make the decision to work at a publicly funded district school, even if down the street, in order to maintain their living expenses as an educator. This is not unique just to our school, but to other Title I low-income public charter schools. Hiring highly qualified educators has become just as difficult within the competitive salaries of neighboring district-funded schools. This raises issues for the youth in Nevada attending these schools because if educators aren't hired, schools lose their curriculum, which limits students' learning opportunities. My proposal seeks to rectify the situation by advocating funding for Title I charter schools. This funding would enable these schools to provide transportational services, match pay raises for educators, and enhance academic programs. I believe that by addressing the funding disparities, we can create a more level playing field for Title I low-income public charter schools and ensure that all students, especially those from minority communities, have access to quality education. Thank you for considering my bill proposal, and I hope to have your support in addressing the funding inequities Title I low-income schools in Nevada face. To add on, this wasn't in my original plan, but I just want to mention that a lot of these programs that you guys have been mentioned, I'm going to use BDR 13 and BDR 7 as an example because my school has a good amount of Spanish-speaking students that do not speak English. I don't know how these programs would work for low-income public charter schools if equitable funding isn't addressed first. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead right to questions. Youth Legislator Cohen, I believe, has his hand up.
Youth Legislator Cohen, District 9 for the record. I just had a question about the teacher pay increase. So would this be consistent across different districts or would it vary? And if not, would it be a statewide increase? And if so, would that have to mean negotiations with teachers or would it be just a set price dictated by the Department of Education?
Could you clarify who you are addressing in this? Because I think you're addressing like CCSD district educators. I'm talking specifically like Title I educators in Nevada.
So I was just asking, how would you determine the increase in pay for those teachers?
I don't think that would be my decision. I think that would be more of a state decision on how they want to address the funding and make it equitable for schools that are considered Title I low-income charter schools, public charter schools.
All right, thank you. Next for questions, Youth Legislator Breeden.
Youth Legislator Breeden, District 4 for the record. Would this include support staff at Title I schools?
So I want to know if I understood your question correctly. Would support staff mean hiring more staff?
No, like custodians, administrators, or special ed assistants and things like that. People, educators, but still support the educators daily.
I would specifically say for special ed educators specifically, because our school is having a really hard time because we do have some special ed students and I feel like they aren't receiving a good education that they would if they had a specialized special ed educator. And this could all be due to the funding because maybe the salary that my school could give to a special ed educator could not be as competitive as a public school in a district salary.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions at this time from the north?
I have a quick question.
From the south? Yes, Youth Legislator Wash.
Sorry. Did you have any specific numbers on the amount of Title I charter schools in the state of Nevada that this bill would affect? Do you have a number for that?
Yes, I actually do have a list of names. So first it would be my school, Equipo Academy, Matter East, Futuro Academy, Nevada Prep, Nevada Rice, and Democracy Prep.
So it's only six or seven schools? Which is the number?
Six that are currently in a similar situation as my school.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions at this time?
That's time.
All right on schedule. We're going to move on to BDR 17, which is presented to you by Youth Legislator Gantia in the North. You can go ahead and start when you're ready.
Hi everyone, it's Youth Legislator Satara Ganti from Senate District 15, and I want to start off by clarifying some definitions. First, corrective room restrictions are confinement to a room as a disciplinary action. Corrective room restrictions and solitary confinement are the same thing, there's just some legal terminology there, but I will be using them interchangeably throughout my time. Second, recidivism is the tendency of a criminal to reoffend. My BDR aims to limit the use of corrective room restrictions in juvenile detention facilities. The proposal sets a maximum of limit of 15 hours, ensuring that the confinement does not extend beyond the time frame unless absolutely necessary. In cases where it must exceed 15 hours, the juvenile must be provided with educational mental stimulation, and the reason must be thoroughly documented. However, confinement may never pass 24 hours under any circumstances. Additionally, if a juvenile is placed in solitary confinement more than 7 times within a month, they have the right to request a review of the reports by an on-duty official who did not originally place them in the solitary confinement. This review ensures the reasoning behind the confinement is fair and just. Additionally, it will teach juveniles to advocate for themselves. Obviously, there will be no punishment given for a juvenile requesting for the report to be reviewed, considering the fact that we're helping them with real-life skills, which include advocating for yourself. The goal of the juvenile detention system should be to rehabilitate, yet over the years we've lost sight of this goal. The system often forgets many of these children come from environments that don't teach them right from wrong, or ones that perpetuate cycles of violence. The goal of my BDR is to prevent these kids from recidivizing. We need to help these kids learn and succeed in the future, not punish them in traumatizing ways. Corrective room restrictions don't rehabilitate, but traumatize. The Juvenile Law Center themselves said, start quote, solitary confinement can cause permanent psychological damage and may lead to self-harm, psychosis, and suicide, end quote. Is this really how we want to rehabilitate the children of Nevada? Through means that can lead to horrific consequences? We need to make a change. Now, moving on to a more technical standpoint, we all want to present a BDR that will help the youth of Nevada but also get passed. Governor Lombardo recently signed a bill limiting solitary confinement in the prison system, and we're talking about children here. Let's make a change. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any questions? Youth Legislator McCarthy.
Youth Legislator McCarthy, for the record, do you have any numbers on how many juveniles in the state of Nevada were placed in solitary confinement in, say, the last year, month, or any other time period?
I don't have the exact number for how often they're placed, but I do have a number for how often they can be placed to. They can be placed in corrective room restrictions for up to 72 hours. So whether that's only a few kids in the system or it's many, we still need to make a change there.
All right, thank you. Anyone in the North?
I have a question.
No one in the North? All right, Youth Legislator Walsh.
Yes, thank you. Youth Legislator Walsh, for the record, my question is, I actually really enjoy your bill, but I'm just wondering how we can't go further. Why 15 to 24, which I know the 24 number is it has certain rules for that, but why can't we limit solitary confinement further down from 15, maybe closer to 12 or 10? Why was 15 the number, considering that's still an extensive time for children to be placed in solitary confinement?
Well, I agree with you. I think solitary confinement in general is a pretty horrific punishment to give children, but we also have to be realistic here. Right now, the limit is 72 hours, so cutting it all the way down to 10 or 12 hours may not be feasible. I mean, I'd be happy to look into that when altering the bill if it gets passed, but yeah.
Thank you. And any other Youth Legislators? Youth Legislator Kane?
It says that if they're placed in solitary confinement for 24 hours, they should be provided educational materials. I'm curious what the educational materials would be. And then secondly, do we have a lot of children in Nevada who are being put in solitary confinement under unfair circumstances or dealing with mental health issues because of being put in solitary confinement?
Wait, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? The first question?
What educational materials would be provided to children put in solitary confinement for 24 hours?
Yeah, so if we want to kind of not have too much physical impact, it could be something as simple as writing exercises, writing down why what they did was wrong. But if we want to have some minor fiscal impact, this could include meeting with a mental health professional, pre-recorded videos, or educational books or workbooks. And what was your second question? I'm so sorry.
I was just curious if there's any like data on how many children in Nevada are placed in solitary confinement unfairly, or like who are affected negatively in their mental health because of being placed in solitary confinement.
Yeah, I don't have the exact number for how many are placed, but as for how their mental health is affected, the Juvenile Law Center themselves said that a lot of side effects to solitary confinement can include psychosis, mental health issues, or even suicide, and that's regarding adults and children, and so we want to address that issue and that consequence that can come with solitary confinement.
Thank you. Any other questions at this time? North?
Time's up.
No time? All right. All right, thank you, Legislator Briganti. BDR proposal number 18 is my BDR proposal. I will turn the meeting over to Vice Chair Cohen for this portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Chair Rios. When you are ready, please proceed.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm hoping to touch on a few topics regarding BDR 18. To begin, it is no secret that youth community service provides clear positives for any individual who participates in it. Between building work ethic and a principled service-oriented mindset to connecting key members and organizations with youth, the horizons for youth grow exponentially when they complete community service. These range anywhere from it is for the positives of community service that 36 states and territories here in the U.S. have adopted legislation or programs for school-age students to complete community service. These range anywhere from hour requirements to elective credit, and students are growing in their abilities. The state of Nevada also has created community service legislation, and this legislation was passed back in 1995. Currently, based on NRS 389.165, Nevada students in public schools can earn 0.5 or 1 semester worth of elective credit for the completion of community service projects for a maximum of 1 credit or 1 school year. I want to highlight the word projects here. Certain districts offer this credit through the completion of certain community service at the amount of 60 hours for 0.5 credit or 120 hours a school year. Current legislation and current practices throughout the state could be improved. The primary objective of BDR 18 is to grow the participation of Nevada youth in community service. It completes this objective through providing incentive for completing community service, providing districts the ability to make community service regulations in a way that fits them, and create an important legal consideration to protect our schools and districts while students complete community service outside of the classroom. From my perspective, there are some gaps and improvements that current policy could include to better accomplish the goal of providing youth with an incentive for completing community service. In order to create these changes, BDR 18 would recommend student-oriented changes and school-oriented changes to accomplish a number of improvements for the current legislation. In terms of student-oriented changes, these include the following. First, the language of the current legislation would be revised from service projects to general community service, and therefore broaden the service a high school student can complete to earn credit, as well as better align the legislation with what some districts are doing today. Second, it would expand the legislation to all schools, including charter schools, and give every Nevada high school student the opportunity to earn this credit. Third, it would expand the credit maximum from 1 credit to 2 credits to encourage students to complete service over a longer period of time. Fourth, it would allow districts the opportunity to lower the required number of credits to anywhere in between 35 and 60 hours to possibly encourage more students to complete the hours by setting a value that fits for each district. And fifth, it would provide for the Department of Education to create information and resources for schools to provide their students with that would encourage students to complete community service and make them aware about the excellent opportunity in front of them. Those were the student-oriented changes. In terms of school-oriented changes, these include the following. First, it would legally protect schools and school districts while a student completes community service for credit. And second, it would provide schools and districts with a clear understanding of what can count for service hours, how to track and certify service hours, and what a student needs to complete to submit for service hours. Those decisions would all be made in consultation with districts and boards of education. So everyone would have a seat at the table and every perspective is considered. With the revisions in mind, the legislation that would arise is something that would improve the current outlook of community service and service learning in general throughout the state. We need more youth completing community service, and it would prepare Nevada youth for a changing world and ensure they have the skills, mindset, and ability they need to succeed as adults. To conclude, this legislation will accomplish the ideas of incentive for youth community service, open the doors for districts to lower that number for a required number of hours, encourage students to complete the service, and ensure that schools and districts have the support they need to make a positive impact. This legislation would place community service in the educational spotlight and expand those horizons for students. And so, with all that being said, I ask for your consideration of BDR 18 today. Thank you for your attention and time.
Thank you, Chair Rios. Would anyone like to ask a question? Youth Legislator Breeden.
Youth Legislator Breeden, District 4. How would we monitor that the community service is actually real, so the credit that they're getting for it is something they actually worked for?
Thank you for that question. So how it's set up and I kind of wrote it out as the legislation would be designed, the Department of Education would create a format or a requirement and in consultation with the districts would decide what counts for community service, number one, and two, what a student would need to submit. My personal opinion, I think a picture and a signature from an adult would work, but again, this is all going to be in consultation with the districts. I will tell you there are current practices because this is an active item. And then this is actually a good point to touch on for fiscal reasons. Because it's active, we won't need to create anything new, but the Department of Education would need to work with the districts to create those items. And so not necessarily a question for me, but the point of the legislation would specifically instruct the Department of Education in consultation with the different districts to answer that question, decide how do we ensure our students are completing community service. And so that way the entire state of Nevada is able to get a say on that question. So we're able to get a firm solution on that.
Does anyone else have a question? Youth Legislator Opsgarden.
Youth Legislator Opsgarden for the record. So this isn't really more of a question, just more of a clarification. So you'd said that each district would have the opportunity to set something between like 35 to 60 hours, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so did you say the same thing for the increase of the maximum credits from 1 to 2, or is that more of a statewide?
So thank you for the question. The maximum would be increased to 2, and that would be statewide. And the hour question I do want to address, 35 to 60 hours for a district to decide. And the reason that that's the case is for a number of reasons. Originally, the intention of the legislation was to make it so that a school would have a cap at 35. There were a couple of issues with that. Number one, there's this item throughout the state, some of you might be familiar with it, called the Carnegie Unit. And that requires 60 hours for 0.5 credit in general for any class, math, English, science. Now, I would be happy to have a discussion if this bill moves forward to lower that and set a lower maximum than 60, because I know that's a big concern for many students that I spoke to. But that's something that, again, if there's enough support for it, if we want to make that change, I would personally be 100% for it to make that change and bring that maximum from 60 down to a more reasonable number if that's what we want to do. But I don't want that to be a stressor. Just because the state itself is actually moving towards a place with Department of Education based on, I spoke to a superintendent, and the state is moving to a place where maybe that Carnegie Unit, that 60 hours requirement might change. So yeah, there's that. Thank you.
Are there any questions in the north?
No.
No. Oh, yes. Youth Legislator Chen.
Yeah, so I understand how making this eligible for credits would or can contribute to, should I continue or no?
If you very quickly.
Okay. How would this work in terms of like scheduling in open periods and early graduation, because it does count towards that?
Thank you for the question. It would be very much in line with a work-study program. There's work-study programs where students earn the credit as they go along, and it's either a pass or fail credit. And so that's how it would be designed, just something that if a student completes it, then they would earn that 0.5 credit on that basis, depending on what the district decides for the hours. Does that answer your question?
Thank you for the presentation. I'll now turn the meeting to you, Chair Rios.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Cohen. All right, Vice Chair Cohen has BDR 19, and so go ahead and you can begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, fellow youth legislators. It's no secret that Nevada lacks the necessary mental health resources to treat its students, often coming last in national rankings among statistics related to youth and mental health. Therefore, a substantial need must be addressed, especially since it targets such a vulnerable group of Nevada citizens. It doesn't show up in infrastructure or fiscal notes, but mental health is a problem that decimates Nevada teens every single year, and this bill seeks to address that problem. Past bills have sought to increase resources available to treat mental health disabilities and disorders after they've already been a problem. Those bills have often not solved the problem and have led to more criticism about mental health solutions, as these bills are often costly. My bill, which seeks to study which forms of implementation will be best for K-12 Nevada schools, solves both problems. By directing the Nevada Board of Education to study this issue more in depth, they can research what methods are most effective in raising awareness of and preventing the exacerbation of mental health problems, not just treating them. This is especially true as the bill seeks to include both elementary and middle schools, ensuring both prevention and destigmatization of mental health issues early on, in addition to the assurance that over time, students will have a 12-year cumulative education by the time they graduate. In this regard, the information found will be used proactively, and better, more practical and cost-effective solutions can be found. This will reduce mental health issues in Nevada schools and work towards a better future for all those who attend them. I seek to direct the State Board of Education to create a subcommittee to find innovative, practical, and cost-effective ways to implement mental health education and training for pupils and instructors. My intent is to find different ways to decrease the statistics of prevalence and stigmatization of mental health issues in schools, promote a cumulative education of 12 years of mental health education by graduation for students and mental health training for teachers, and ultimately support the next generation of Nevadans. By using this type of method, a research study conducted by professionals, it is possible to determine how to best move forward in a manner that serves all parties, preventing youth from experiencing mental health issues, assisting youth already experiencing mental health issues, aiding teachers who interact with said individuals, and equipping school officials with resources to support all students and teachers. By implementing education at such a young age, and building upon that in the future, young Nevadans will be furnished with an arsenal of resources at their disposal in their mental health journeys. By implementing training for teachers, teachers can learn the best methods to ensure their students don't experience mental health disorders and support those that do. And by providing schools with a direction on how to ensure these things happen, the study conducted by the subcommittee of the State Board of Education will make a tremendous difference in the lives of all those in the educational environment. Precisely how that will be implemented is unknown, but that is the exact reason why this bill needs to exist. To find out ways that will solve the problem, are easy to implement, and don't cost a fortune. The actual implementation of mental health education and training to students and teachers remains impossible to predict without a fully conducted research study. However, the outcomes of the study itself, not its findings, are easier to predict. For one, it is one of the cheapest BDRs presented today, as research costs do not include already present employees, infrastructure, and outreach that the Department of Education already possesses. And since this bill is cost-effective and maximizes social impact, there will be no shortage of bipartisan support in the Nevada Legislature, letting this bill have an incredible chance of success. Furthermore, I know that this study will find crucial, innovative, practical, and cost-effective solutions that previously had not been discovered, allowing mental health education and training to be implemented throughout K-12 schools in Nevada. By doing so, young Nevadans will be able to learn and thrive in schools and have the ability to grow up as strong, healthy individuals. This bill will definitively treat the issue and save both money and lives. Thank you, and I look forward to your vote.
Thank you. All right. Any questions from youth legislators? Youth Legislator King.
I have a question.
All right. Thank you. We'll go ahead and do Youth Legislator Kane and then Youth Legislator Walsh.
How can you ensure the efficiency of a subcommittee on mental health, especially when so many of the bills today have to do with shortcomings of the school board that aren't intentional, but sometimes just happen because of flaws in the system?
Well, the whole point of the study is to find ways to reduce that government red tape that already exists. So I understand the concern that maybe the subcommittee won't be as effective as idealized, but as it does seek to solve an issue in a way that ends up saving money for the state, there wouldn't be an incentive for the subcommittee not to go ahead and do this research project, as it'll end up benefiting them more in the long run. So I don't think that would be a major concern.
Thank you. Youth Legislator Walsh.
Thank you. Youth Legislator Walsh for the record. I want to thank Youth Legislator Cohen for his well thought out speech. I really enjoyed it. My kind of question is, I see where you're thinking, but I'm wondering like how much this will push kind of, because at the end of the day, schools are academic institutions, and I'm wondering if this will kind of adding the subcommittee and the Department of Education will kind of not ruin the reputation of schools, but put more burden onto an institution that at the end of the day is academic and has had a lot of burden in the past with more programs to do with mental health of their students, which sometimes are not always warranted in the fact that, again, schools are academic institutions and not mental health facilities.
So on the point about ensuring that their schools aren't overburdened, part of the goal that I seek to address in the research project conducted by the Department of Education is to find ways to make schools less burdened while still achieving the goals that need to be achieved. So the main part of the research project is to find ways to take that pressure off of the schools as best it can in order to maximize whatever impact that subcommittee seeks to achieve. And I think with the research project, we're going to find innovative ways that previously hadn't been thought just because they hadn't been investigated or researched fully. So that's one of the main incentives of doing this research project.
All right, thank you. Youth Legislator Chong.
Yes, who will be on the subcommittee? And second, what is the time frame for creating this research report? When should it be released?
So for people made up on the subcommittee of the State Board of Education, that would have to be created at the discretion of the State Board of Education, but it could be officials from the State Board of Education, it could be community leaders, anyone who the State Board of Education deems would be as responsible as possible to ensure the full implementation of the bill. And regarding the timeline of the bill, that also would be obviously left up to discretion of the State Board of Education, but as I said earlier, as it ends up improving the State Board of Education's position over the long term, I think that there would be no reason to delay or slow down this process.
All right, thank you. Any other questions at this time?
Time.
Oh. All right. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to BDR 20, which is Youth Legislator Rosas. So he can begin when he's ready.
Hi, I'm Youth Legislator Rosas. I'm from District 17. So, my BDR aims at lowering the minimum blood donation age from 16 to 14 years old. COVID-19 had a disastrous effect on the healthcare system. I'm pretty sure we all know that. It especially crippled blood banks. Blood banks everywhere are out of blood. They're running out of it. There's a nationwide shortage of it. There's just no blood. So, I was able to speak with 2 leaders in my community that work with Vitalent and many others like Banner, and they highlighted the importance of donating blood. I learned that blood banks heavily rely on this, specifically from minors and youth. 25% of their incoming blood, so their blood received, came from high schoolers and college students. And that's a lot when you compare it to the other groups that they get from. This makes the youth very crucial when supplying blood. Right now, the minimum age to donate blood in Nevada is 16 with parental consent or 17 without it. That range prevents a lot of high schoolers from donating. So I did a little poll in my high school, and I found that a lot of the underclassmen, so freshmen and sophomores, would have donated blood if they could. They're not allowed to. They have that limit, unfortunately. If lowered, the amount of donators will increase, and ultimately there'd be more blood. To donate blood, you currently need to meet 2 requirements: height and weight. I think that keeping those requirements for the new lowered ages will still prevent bad things from happening. Like, a lot of people can't donate blood because it's unhealthy, and you should be able to keep those recommended. Like, if you can't donate blood, you shouldn't. It's harmful for you. and you wouldn't be able to even if you aged up anyways, so they should still keep those to prevent harm from being done. I think that lowering the minimum donating age to 14 will greatly increase the number of youth donators. This will lead to a lot more blood in blood banks and ultimately less of a strain for healthcare workers who need that blood for people.
All right, thank you.
I was just going to give a little bit of a personal thing. I am a cadet at my local fire station, and I ride along with the EMTs, and you really, really see the importance of that blood. It's really needed. I don't know if a lot of people think about it, but yep, it's definitely needed. And I help set up and run the blood banks too. It's nice when a lot of people go out, and I'd like to see more youth come in. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. All right, questions at this time in the north? Youth Legislator Breeden. And then we'll go to the north after. Youth Legislator Breeden.
So I just donated blood at my school this Monday where I was 1 pound over the limit, so I was able to, but my 17-year-old best friend was 1 pound over and couldn't. So how many 14-year-olds could really donate blood when there was majority of the high schoolers there trying to donate who were at the minimum age, but not at the minimum height or weight?
So you have to be over both of them, and a lot of people aren't going to meet both of those requirements. They're unfortunately not going to be able to. So yeah, I recognize that a lot of underclassmen, younger people, aren't going to meet those standards, and that's sad. They won't be able to donate, but I know that a couple of them will be able to. So I just want to open up that door, that possibility for the few that are able to. And if they donate if they want to donate while they're younger, they'll hopefully want to donate as they age up. So lowering the age won't mean less donors. It'll hopefully mean more, even if it's just by a little bit.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions at this time?
I have a question.
In the north?
Yes, Mr.
All right.
Youth Legislator Chung?
Youth Legislator Chong, go ahead.
Yes, this is Youth Legislator Chong, Senate District 13 for the record. I was just wondering, do you know why existing law sets the blood donation age at 16? And I've seen, because I was really interested in this bill actually, I think it has the potential for a law change, but I saw that most states, it's pretty uniformly at 16. So is there any reason why this limit is in terms of maybe biology? And have you talked to the blood banks or other health professionals about this?
Yeah, I have actually I've talked to Banner Health, a local clinic at my city, and Vitalent. FDA regulations are the reason why it's at 16 and 17 right now. I'm not sure. They don't know why it's like that. With the Vitalent workers that I've spoken with, they said that there's no reason why it has to be at 16. Now, I'm sure that there is. I will have to come back at you with an answer for that, but it is because of FDA regulations. I don't know why it's specifically 16.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions at this time?
I have a question. Youth Legislator Walsh, I have a question.
Youth Legislator Chang, go ahead.
So 2 questions. One is a follow-up to Youth Legislator Chong. One is on my own. So first question, if there are FDA regulations that set the minimum age limit for 16, then how would changing state laws affect that if it's federal regulation?
If it's federal, like if it's a national thing, it's going to be a lot harder to change. But I'm hoping that if it can gain traction, even locally at first and then state, and then if we do get state, maybe it could go into like more people's minds.
Okay.
More of an idea. But yeah, that is hard if it's going to be FDA to change.
And then quickly, the second, very quickly.
Yeah, and the second question is if we lower the age limit, so 16 and under would then have to get parental permission, correct?
Yes, I believe 16 and under will have to get parental
you.
parental permission, yeah.
Okay, time up.
Thank you very much. All right. We're going to move on to BDR 21, Youth Legislator Perry, which I believe Senator Wiener.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is Youth Legislator Perry present?
Not at this time.
Okay, and we believe we have checked that we don't have any pre-submitted remarks to be shared. We have done that in the past where youth legislators have submitted remarks for the chair to read into the record. So at this time for consideration, and understanding of this measure. Mr. Chair, if you would read the summary for BDR 21, this will have to suffice at this time.
All right, thank you. BDR 21 is submitted by Youth Legislator Gianna Perry. It states, existing law requires each school adopt a plan to provide progressive discipline for pupils. This bill would require each campus to have at least one restorative justice facilitator to lead a restorative justice intervention, performance assessments, offer support during an intervention, and require schools adopt at least one of the best practices for restorative justice. And I believe we don't have a question portion, correct?
Correct.
All right. All right. Well, thank you very much for the presentations, the wonderful presentations, and for your questions today and your involvement. Now that we have heard all the BDR proposals, I would like to give youth legislators a quick 3-minute recess to privately consider, not discuss with our colleagues, but to privately consider all the information that has been presented to us. This is the time for you to decide which one BDR proposal, if any, you would like to co-sponsor. Youth legislators, please take time to rank the top 3 BDR proposals you've heard today. After the recess, I will ask Ms. Jimenez to call roll to determine co-sponsorships. When your name is called, please provide the number of the BDR proposal you would like to co-sponsor. After that, we will do another roll call vote to state your vote on the BDR proposals. When your name is called, please provide the numbers for your top 3 BDR proposal preferences. At this time, we will take a 3-minute recess. All right. The Nevada Youth Legislature will now come back to order. As I stated before the recess, we will begin with the roll call vote to determine co-sponsorships. When your name is called, please provide the number of the one BDR proposal, if any, you would like to co-sponsor. Alternatively, if you do not wish to co-sponsor a BDR proposal, please say so. Ms. Jimenez, will you please call the roll?
Youth Legislator Allen,
BDR number 13.
Youth Legislator Alvarez Flores,
I do not wish to co-sponsor.
Youth Legislator Breeden,
BDR 6.
Youth Legislator Kane,
BDR 17.
Youth Legislator Chang,
BDR 6.
Youth Legislator Chen,
BDR 1.
Youth Legislator Chong,
BDR 7.
Vice Chair Cohen,
I do not wish to co-sponsor.
Youth Legislator Conyers,
BDR 2.
Youth Legislator Coughlin,
BDR 6.
Youth Legislator McCarthy,
BDR 15.
Youth Legislator Wen,
BDR 3.
Youth Legislator Opskarten,
BDR 18.
Youth Legislator Park,
I do not wish to co-sponsor.
Youth Legislator Reganti,
BDR 8.
Chair Rios,
BDR 17.
Youth Legislator Rosas,
I do not wish to co-sponsor.
Youth Legislator Villatoro,
BDR 7.
Youth Legislator Wolf,
BDR 6.
Youth Legislator Walsh.
BDR 17.
Thank you. That completes our roll. Now we have taken care of the co-sponsorships. Let's move on to the BDR vote. When your name is called, please state the numbers for the 3 BDR proposals you would most like to see move forward. The 7 BDR proposals with the most votes will be addressed during the October 22nd, 2024 NYL meeting. Ms. Jimenez, will you please call the roll?
Youth Legislator Allen,
BDR 7, 12, and 17.
Youth Legislator Alvarez Flores,
BDR 16, 12, and 17.
Youth Legislator Breeden,
BDR 1, 6, 3.
Youth Legislator Kane,
BDR 12, 6, and 17.
Youth Legislator Chang,
BDRs 6, 10, and 2.
Youth Legislator Chen,
BDR 12, 1, and 10.
Youth Legislator Chong,
BDR 7, 8, and 17.
Vice Chair Cohen,
BDRs 2, 4, and 19.
Youth Legislator Conyers,
BDRs 2, 8, and 18.
Youth Legislator Coughlin,
BDR 6, 17, and 3.
Youth Legislator McCarthy,
BDRs 15, 8, and 3.
Youth Legislator Wen,
BDR 3, 6, and 17.
Youth Legislator Opskarten,
BDRs 2, 18, and 20.
Youth Legislator Park,
BDR 6, 7, and 21.
Youth Legislator Reganti,
BDRs 17, 7, and 8.
Chair Rios,
BDR 17, 1, and 18.
Youth Legislator Rosas,
BDR 6, 10, and 17.
Youth Legislator Villatoro,
BDR 6, 7, and 20.
Youth Legislator Wolf,
BDR 6, 8, and 18.
Youth Legislator Walsh.
BDRs 17, 6, and 8.
All right. Thank you so much. Could we please tally up those votes to see which are the top 7?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Senator Weiner, and please, staff and Tina, I attempted to keep a tally. To me, it looks like you have 4 that, it looks like 17, 6, 8, and 7. Are those the top 4? May I have confirmation of that?
Yeah, that is correct, Senator Weiner, and we do have a tie between.
Then you have 3, 2, 18, and 12 that all have 3?
That is
Is that
correct,
correct?
yes. Mhm.
Or 4?
4,
I guess
yes.
4 can. I write the number plus I tally it. So my suggestion would be that you do another vote on those 4 that are remaining to get the top 3. Everybody would get 1 vote.
All right. We're going to go ahead and move forward. All right, we're going to go ahead and move forward with that. We're going to be having a tiebreaker vote between BDRs 3, 18, 12, and 2. Is that correct? All right, 3, 18, 12, and 2. And we'll give it a couple seconds for everybody to go and read those. And we'll go ahead and Ms. Jimenez, if you can. Oh.
3, 12, and 18.
All right. 2, 3, 12, and 18. Ms. Jimenez, if you could please call the roll. And we're only choosing one. We're only choosing one of those 4.
Youth Legislator Allen,
BDR 12.
Youth Legislator Alvarez Flores,
BDR 18.
Youth Legislator Breeden,
BDR 12.
Youth Legislator Kane,
BDR 12.
Youth Legislator Chang,
BDR 2.
Youth Legislator Chen.
BDR 12.
Youth Legislator Chong.
BDR 18.
Vice Chair Cohen.
BDR 2.
Youth Legislator Conyers.
BDR 18.
Youth Legislator Coughlin.
BDR 3.
Youth Legislator McCarthy.
BDR 3.
Youth Legislator Nguyen.
BDR 3.
Youth Legislator Opsgarden.
BDR 2.
Youth Legislator Park.
BDR 3.
Youth Legislator Reganti.
BDR 12.
Chair Rios.
BDR 18.
Youth Legislator Rosas.
BDR 3. Sorry.
Youth Legislator Villatoro.
BDR 12.
Youth Legislator Wolf.
BDR 18.
Youth Legislator Walsh.
BDR 12.
Thank you. And if we could please tally those up.
3, 12, and 18.
All right. So if I have it correct, BDRs 6, 8, 17, 3, 7, 18, and 12 will be moving forward. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for providing us with these 7 BDR proposals. Youth legislators whose BDR proposals were chosen today will have the opportunity to give more in-depth presentations about them and their BDR proposals during our October 22nd NYL meeting. Each youth legislator will have 5 minutes for their presentations and 4 minutes for colleagues' questions and their thoughtful answers. After these presentations, youth legislators will vote to select the top 2 BDR proposals that will be heard at our meeting on November 20th, 2024. The next order of business is item 6, which is a preview of the upcoming activities, meetings, and trainings of the Nevada Youth Legislature. Our next meeting is scheduled for October 22nd, 2024. I look forward to seeing all of you again then. We'll further consider the 7 BDR proposals we chose today and select 2 of them for our official hearing on November 20th, 2024. After our meeting on October 22nd, we'll receive trainings regarding 2 outside assignments, providing testimony before a public decision-making body, and outreach recruitment. Our public testimony plans are due on or before November 16th. Our outreach recruitment letters or videos are due on or before December 14th. As always, please submit the assignments before the due date if possible. The assignment templates for these activities are in our training binders, and Mrs. Ashdown will also send PDF fillable forms. We must send our completed plans to Senator Wiener, our legislators, and Mrs. Ashdown. There's a document in your meeting folder that lists these upcoming events. Agenda item 7 is time for youth legislators' comments, questions, and/or discussion. I will ask Senator Wiener to lead the portion of the meeting.
Thank you very much, Chair Rios. I am awed. I am overwhelmed with joy at the excellence of ideas and research and passion and the delivery of all of this, and making it concise and being complete and being thorough in presenting and in answering questions. I am, a word person, I'm speechless. You all did an exemplary job. Wow, I wish I could have been there with you. What I encourage, and we've done this from the very beginning, and now the time has come, and it will come again next month. 14 proposals, though well presented and well vetted, the colleagues chose the 7, and now there are 14 proposals. that can have a different kind of life, a different path to take. I strongly encourage each of you to reach out to your legislators and start that conversation, because now they're on timelines to get their bill proposals in for the next session. They're on deadlines. Contact them. Certainly you can provide the summary. Ask for time to talk with them. You can provide your remarks if you want to send that so they can see more about. The summaries don't capture what it is you just presented in your remarks. We've already had some legislators inquire about what next level of involvement they can have with you. Please take advantage of this opportunity. They still have a window of time to request bill draft proposals in their allocation. Please consider, it's not mandated, please consider reaching out and seeking their support for either Assembly or Senate side. Please take advantage of this opportunity to move your measure through a request to a legislator through an individual bill introduction. The ideas you brought, I just kept thinking I was sitting in the Senate, listening to each of you with your passion and your commitment and the intention behind what you wanted to do today in attempting to get yours selected for the next round. You were professional. You were, again, exemplary. You just hit the mark. Each one of you was profound. And you brought your passion and your intention and your purpose. All of it came to the table as you presented and as you answered questions. I'm so grateful for each of you and the privilege of being here to witness what you did today. So, questions, any questions that you might have at this point? Any thoughts you want to share? Any discussion points you want to bring to this conversation? And I won't be able to call on anybody, Mr. Chair. So anyone, if you would call on anybody who might want to share, that would be lovely.
For sure. You'd Legislator Walsh, go ahead.
I would just like to share that I'm also super duper impressed by everybody. This was really exciting. It's like super late for me because I'm like 3 hours ahead of you guys, but you have definitely kept me awake. So thank you for that. I had a lot of fun. Honestly, this has helped me so much just understand so many other issues in our state that I didn't even realize because of my own perspective. So I just wanted to thank everybody. And I hope you guys have a great weekend as well. And thank you, Senator Wiener, for coming here as well. I know that you're still recovering from surgery, but you were able to carve out time for us, which is really awesome. So thank you.
Anyone else want to provide any thoughts? Anyone in the north? I'll go ahead. I just want to echo Youth Legislator Walsh's remarks for Senator Wiener. Thank you for joining us. I know you're busy recovering from surgery, which is an entire task on its own. And just the highest appreciation for my fellow youth legislators. The bill proposals, we sit in classes all day where we hear proposals about different ideas or in government classes. And these are really some of the most well thought out, and the passion it's bouncing off the walls. It's definitely very present. And I would, again, just like to echo Youth Legislator Walsh's remarks on the difference of perspectives that we encountered today, right? In our own lives, we have things that are important to us. And specifically with the state of Nevada, just getting to hear the different concerns that especially our Northern Nevada and rural youth legislators had to bring forward is really important because, we are separate parts of the state, but at the end of the day, we're one Nevada. And as long as we remember that, I think we'll be successful as a state and as a people. So thank you so much. It's been a wonderful experience today. And that's what I have for me. Thank you, Senator Wiener. All right. If there's no other comments from youth legislators, I would like to once again thank Senator Wiener, and I will now open the second period of public comment. Yes,
Mr.
Senator
Chair,
Wiener.
before you do that, in the overview of upcoming trainings, and just to review what, again, even if you just said it, review so we can plant that seed really carefully about what we have coming up between now and January. That, again, to leave that one more time.
For sure. All right, so I'll review. It's just a review of item 6, which is the preview of the upcoming activities, meetings, and trainings of the Nevada Youth Legislature, so that we're all prepared and ready to go. Our next meeting is scheduled for October 22nd, 2024. We will further consider the 7 BDR proposals we chose today and select 2 of them for our official hearing on November 20th, 2024. So 2 dates there, October 22nd and November 20th. After our meeting on October 22nd, we'll receive trainings regarding 2 outside assignments. One of those is the providing testimony before a public decision-making body and the outreach recruitment. Our public testimony plans are due on or before November 16th. On or before November 16th. Our outreach recruitment letters or videos are due on or before December 14th. That's December 14th. When possible, please submit the assignments before the due date. The assignment templates for these activities are in our training binders, and Mrs. Ashdown will also send PDF fillable forms. We must send our completed plans to Senator Wiener, our legislators, and Mrs. Ashdown. All 3 of those must be sure to get, and of course, legislators being multiple, so making sure we're CCing everybody on the emails and no one is missing out on the awesome things that we're doing here in the Youth Legislature. And there is a document in your meeting folder that lists these upcoming events. And Senator Wiener, was there anything else you wanted to add to that about those items?
I wanted to share why I wanted you to emphasize that, because it's very easy for us to pass through that on an agenda. It's very important that we secure in our minds what these deadlines are and what we will be doing going forward in the processing of the measure. Sometimes you don't get it on the first pass. And it's very important to understand how it all fits together as we go forward into the final stages of the BDR process, as well as the outside activities. So sometimes hearing things more than once makes a difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Wiener, for that reminder. All right, I will now open the second period of public comment. The same rules mentioned during the first period of public comment apply. Please try to avoid repeating testimony if someone has already made your point. Each person will be asked to limit their testimony to 2 minutes. Do we have anyone in the South that wants to provide public comment? See none. Do we have anyone in the North that would wish to provide public comment at this time?
Go to the phone. We forgot to do that.
Okay. All right. Not seeing anyone in the North coming to the table. Do we have anyone on, is it BPS, right? Anyone on the phones?
Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working, but we have no callers at this time.
All right. Thank you so much. It appears we do not have anyone who chooses to provide public comment at this time, and so we are now ready to adjourn. Do any youth legislators have any final thoughts or comments before adjourning? Seeing none, this will conclude our business for today. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all. Have a great weekend.